What's up, everyone? We're here for the Aegis Esports Legends of Runeterra play-ins for EMEA. I'm Domcast, joined by Eniamore. Eniamore, it's my first time on the EU cast. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm glad to see you here. EU is where all the best players are. So I'm glad for you to actually see like this competition and see that EU has some fun games to watch.
All right, I'm looking for some fun games because last time I was on, we were here for a couple of long matches. I'm looking to get into some action, into some chaos, and I think it's looking like a good matchup. We have a round robin essentially, Eniamore, between the Crusty Geezers, Big Flex Gamers, and EU Farmers, and the deck lineups look pretty interesting. I'm excited to see what happens. I haven't been on the cast since the nerfs essentially of the last patch. So I'm excited to see, Kane Vayne in there. It's a bit of a mix up, but we still have the Ezreal Seraphine Classic, the Gwen Katarina Classic. But we'll be covering those decks a little bit later. How about, or we'll be covering them right now as we first talk about the play-in format anymore. Take it away.
Yeah, sweet. So the play-in format is basically taking this idea of backseeding and putting it into the next stage. So we've got basically the third seeds from each group. They'll compete in a single round robin of
Hmm.
collaborative sets. Then the team will be basically advanced based on their round robin set win rate. If all the teams are tied, then basically it comes down to game win percentage. Then if that is still tied, then it has to go to the group stage tiebreaker criteria. And basically, it's pretty interesting with this format because you are taking that backsetting element from the groups that was, kind of added to the season. And I think it will be really good because whenever you watch these backseating matches, you get the highest level of competition. So it's going to be a really, really competitive day.
Yeah, they've always been an exciting thing to watch, throughout the season, all the players coming together, putting their collective brain cells together to finally try and figure out how to win a match. It should be pretty interesting. And, like you mentioned, it's going to end up in a tie, and it is going to come down to who wins the most matches, or the most sets as we go into the first deck by the Crusty Geezers.
Right. And that is actually Leona Asol with a Jarvan. You might be looking at this. Why are they bringing Leona Asol? I thought this was like tier 3 and only played by uh, BBG like 2 years ago. Well, there was this person called the Cupper's Mine and almost got to Worlds with it, and it hits a lot of matchups. Basically, Leona Asol is basically a anti mid range deck that targets a lot of things at the moment that kind of wants to, be targeting the good stuff. So you're basically just targeting the tier 2 decks at the moment. You're running the basically Daybreak package like Solari,
Mhm.
Sun Guardian, Sun Forger, basically all the good stuff like Ravoon, and you're just trying to get a really good mid game so you can stabilize against other Demacia and all other kind of like Demacia decks so you can just take the one basically.
Yeah, no, I think this is pretty interesting to see. With the Leona changes, the Sun Guardian changes in like the most recent set of updates. I think it's added a lot of opportunity with Leona, and I'm glad that we're able to see something with a totally different archetype like this Leona Asol deck. I think it'll be really interesting to see how it plays out because, like you mentioned, it is like super strong in the mid game. Can definitely stall out against a lot of the decks that are trying to be a little bit more aggro with their cheaper units and then go for like a big win with the Sun Guardian, the Ravoon, and the Eclipse Dragon. As we take a look at the second lineup brought from Big Flex Gamers, and as a reminder, these deck lists are brought to you by Runeterra AR, where you want to get all of your deck lists, your deck stats, anything to improve on your or your deck building activities. And Big Flex Gamers, they're bringing out the meta with this Vayne Kane deck. Vayne Kane up there with the best of the decks right now in the ladder. And for a lot of reasons. Kane is a pretty strong card. Once you turn into Rost, it is a super good ability to like bring back the game. You're healing your Nexus, doing all that sort of stuff. And then Vayne, Vayne got hit pretty hard with her nerf. The tumble is now 4 costs to start, but it still doesn't matter. Tumble is such a huge card. You only really need to use it once for it to be a game winner. And then you see, we have a lot of the other cards in the as the followers. Buru Cultist, pretty broken card, I think. It's up there with the Crackshot Corsair. When a unit attacks that's equipped, it does 1 damage to the Nexus. Forsaken Bakai, Keeper of the Box, Blooming Cultist, Ambitious Cultist, all of these just make sure you also pull Kane. And then you got the Combat Cook in there, one of the best weapon masters, just a lot of really strong units. And then to back it up, you have some extra strong spells to make sure your board stays safe and you're making sure you're clearing the opponent's important cards.
Yeah, pretty much. So at first, I think Kane Vayne wasn't really looked as a deck, but after seeing it in action from like a really good pilot, this deck actually has so much legs and it's such a good meta bring. I think that it targets a lot of stuff.
Hmm.
Probably with like Kane, a lot of people go with Rust, but there is a really good option with Shadow Assassin like majority of the time. So
Hmm.
if we do see this, I do want to see some the Shadow Assassin action at least.
Yeah, and that's just one of the things that Kane brings to it is the variety. Like you can go for the Shadow Assassin if you want to be a little more aggressive, or you can just go Rost and try and play the long game. As we look into the lineup from Krusty Geezers and Big Flex Gamers, we see the Asol J4 Leona deck, that we talked about earlier. Kane Vayne making an appearance on both teams, but then Krusty Geezers bringing out the Gangplank Sejuani. Gangplank Sejuani, kind of a mainstay, I think, in Legends of Runeterra. Always prevalent, always kind of strong. It just depends on what the meta is and what cards have been released, buffed, or changed to bring it back into a real form of power. And then on the Big Flex Gamers side, we have the Pantheon Varus and the Gwen Katarina, both decks that we've been seeing a ton of since basically they came out. Gwen Katarina has been popular since the summer. Varus Pantheon's been popular since the Varus came out. And, they just have so much synergy, I think, both those decks. They work really well together. The Faded proc along with Varus's passive of gaining power when you target allies, and then the Katarina recycle to just constantly attack for like 5 turns.
Yeah, so I think so looking at this, the plunder is really interesting. Obvious strategy they've kind of gone for is anti-Demacia,
Hmm.
and it's kind of like that. Plunder is actually a lot more 50-50 into a lot of these decks. You're gonna be a kind of okay against Kane. Problem is, if you don't find Sejuani, it's a bit like, oh no. And then that's
Hmm.
the same with like Pantheon basically. And
Hmm.
you kind of, because of you're running Kane, you're kind of bad into that Pantheon. So there's a lot of close matchups, definitely
Hmm.
winnable. But I think maybe we'll see a Red Glen ban from like the team of Crusty Geezers. That would probably make the most sense, I reckon. And then just try and
Hmm.
donkey on the Pantheon.
Yeah, no, I can see that, and that's something we talk about a lot on the AM cast. Is like, what are you actually not going to win against? What are you most afraid of? And I think the Leona J4 Acel deck really throws a wrench into like that sort of plan. It is kind of like this unknown. You know what it's supposed to be strong against, but like you don't necessarily play against it too much. So do you really know if you're going to beat it or not? And it can really put some trouble here. But I think you mentioned it. Like a lot of these decks are pretty difficult if you don't pull the correct cards. And yeah, there we go. The J4 Acel Leona taken off the board from Krusty Geekers, and the Varus Pantheon taken away from Big Flex Gamers.
Right. It looks a bit weird at first, but I can see Kane has some legs against Red Glen. I know it's a bit closer than people think.
Hmm.
So if you have to keep it up, then it's fine.
Hmm.
And then that's the same with Plunder. It kind of just comes down to that sedge. Like, I'll probably be reiterating it most of the time, but if you don't find Sejuani in a lot of these matchups, it just feels like the deck is a 65% win rate deck to like almost bare minimum 50.
It's going to be an interesting thing as we wait to get into the match. What do you think is going to be the lead from each team? What do you think they're going to try and get the win on first?
All right, here I come with the good old. You know what? It doesn't matter. The coin flip. The statistically, mathematically, it doesn't matter. Nah. I think maybe Plunder makes the most sense if we
Hmm.
really wanted to, just like say I'm gonna bring the best deck. But at the same time, like I don't like the idea of being predictable because if
Hmm.
big flex gamers know that, you actually get an advantage that way.
Hmm.
So I usually let the time run out and let it choose for me, but I'm kinda happy
Hmm.
with both of these.
Okay, that's a good take. It should be interesting to see. I'm honestly surprised that Gwen Katarina has lasted this long in terms of competitive viability, just because it doesn't seem like it's that good. But once you get that Eternal Dancer Katarina recycle going, it's just so strong. There's nothing you can really do about it.
Just, it's really just so even. The tempo
Hmm.
deck is literally just almost good into everything. You have game into aggro, you have game into mid range just based
Hmm.
on, the pressure and tempo you can actually find, and then you have, like, really good control tools. So, almost every matchup is even, and the only deck that kinda, like, really stops it, or not even stop it, but, have a bit better game is, like, Leona type decks. But even then, you can
Hmm.
actually just do absolutely insane stuff that if you're a good pilot, you can make wonders out of this.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see as we, are still waiting to get into that first matchup. I'm I'm honestly surprised, just because I've been looking at the match or the deck lists for everyone today, and it should be interesting. EU Farmers is bringing actually 100% unique decks, so this should be an interesting matchup once we get into the later stages of seeing those mixed up matches. You know, we should be able to see some fun stuff. But do we, Wookie, do we have an ETA? All right. So just a few more seconds there before we get into the first matchup. Now, any more? I haven't been around for most of the EMEA content, most of the EMEA league. How have these teams been matching up lately?
Right. So BFG is probably the best team out of these three. I think they
Hmm.
probably come from the hardest group. Just missing, like very close to trying to get into playoffs, but they lost to Mayo Bandits and LFR. So
Hmm.
I think if we had one to watch, Big Flex Gamers is probably the
The
team that
favorite.
is the best here. Yeah, definitely. Especially against Crusty Geezers.
Hmm.
Crusty Geezers, you have people like Luna, which are really good players, but if I just go on paper, I have Ghosted Driver, a person who's occasionally 9-0s a season almost every time, and then I have Nautix, and then I also have, Timmy, which basically was a second runner-up in the last seasonals, and then you have Hipster Waldo, who's like won a seasonals. So
Hmm.
on paper, this is a scary team. But talking about scary, this hand from Big Flex Gamer is not it. Only if you hate Vayne, because then you're scared.
Yeah, no, I was gonna mention, we kind of missed the mulligan, but Krusty Geezers has a pretty good set. They got both Buru Cultists and the Lodestone, but then Big Flex Gamers had to toss back 3 of their cards, pulled an extra vein, and then nothing that they could play until turn 3 at least. So this is not the best start, I think, agreeing with what you said. And they finally pulled the Buru Cultists, but it doesn't matter because there's still no equipment on the board.
Right, but saying that as well, I do think these condemns will gain some advantage later.
Hmm.
Basically, I haven't played this mirror, but looking at it, if I can kind of get out all my cultists, kind of get a decent board and get some good condemns off, it might be good. So these veins could actually be
Hmm.
very positive for us.
No, I think Condemn is a really good thing to bring up, actually, because the one thing you don't want to have is the Kane get on the board, get a little bit of progress going on his Darkened Scythe. But the Condemn, it is 6 costs, but it's a pretty safe strike spell because it is your ally strikes the enemy. That's not a back and forth thing like a lot of spells are. So 6 costs, but being able to clear an important card like that Kane should be pretty convenient to have because you don't usually bring Condemn. It's a very expensive spell and very difficult to proc otherwise to get it down to that 1 cost. As we see a bit of decision making going on between the Pot of Pain and the Fishawhack. And honestly, I think the Fishawhack's the angle.
It's pretty close. So I think Fishawak's good for that condemned, right? Like if we
Mm-hmm.
get it down to 1 mana, you basically don't have the problem that you need more power into it. Oh, it's
Mm-hmm.
actually on the
No,
crusty
it's supposed,
users.
yeah,
But
it was for custom users.
okay, same with the Furious Wielder then. Okay, the
Mm-hmm.
Furious Wielder is basically a similar card, but
Mm-hmm.
it allows that pretty well. Besides that, like I do like the +2 on the combat cook though at the same time. Just because like if you have more health and it just stops them from attacking, it also is very good on the mirror.
Mm-hmm. As we see the Pot of Pain being chosen for Big Flex Gamers combat cook. And that one's also I think a pretty good card because it doesn't save you from the 4/5 combat cook, but it does give your cards a little bit more power, a little bit more health, and in terms of effective health with the tough. As we see a big attack from Big Flex Gamer, this is gonna hurt.
It's gonna hurt a lot. What a pot of painting, that's for sure. I think like we we're probably trying to get these blocks off, but it's really scary on the basis of like momentous, right? We don't really want to get that trade in, and even even doing this is like fine. Like you get the value trade now, and you're forcing the momentous. So a bit weird from that attack. I don't really like the idea of forcing out this momentous on our hand, right? Just to get a good trade. Because
Mm-hmm.
you really want that for stuff like Condemned and that, certain
Furious
stuff like
Wielder.
Concerted, right?
Mm-hmm.
Furious Wielder, all that good stuff. And Momentous is even a really good card in the late game where you might need it for something like
A
a
block.
Vayne turn and it gets frozen with the freeze card.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a good thing to bring up, but at a time like this early in the game, 4 mana, uh, Like turn 4, you get 4 mana 3 spell. Like there's nothing that really can save the Vayne, I think. And from our perspective, we know that there's nothing to save the Vayne, but that could be something you want to do as Crusty Geezers, like burn a lot of that defense now, because you have Concerted Strike, you have Furious Wielder, you have ways to get rid of these cards later if you burn a lot of the safety now.
Yeah, and something else to mention is like they did just take 7 damage.
Mhm,
Taking 7 damage and putting Big Flex Gamers on the back foot is really important,
mhm,
especially because Big Flex Gamers does not have a cane in hand, has kind of gone slowly with these cultists. So just on a understanding of being on the back foot, we're getting this cane and the Rast out. It will be the case for
mhm,
BFG.
mhm. Yeah, and Big Flex Gamers, they've honestly been kind of unfortunate with the draw here. They have another Combat Cook. They have the Buru Cultist. They got a good way to start building, especially since Crusty Geezers kind of can't play too many cards this turn. They can play a Kane, or they can play the Cultist into like something else. But there's not a lot to go for the block here, and Big Flex Gamers kind of does need to go wide because they only have 9 health. If Crusty Geezers can get back onto the board with these other clear spells that they have, it's going to be a pretty rough angle. There is a Concerted Strike, there's the Furious Wielder that we've been talking about so much. There's only 2 units for Big Flex Gamers and 9 health. Like if Kane comes down like this turn, and then you lose something attacking this turn, like there's definitely a bad or a likely possibility that you take a bunch of damage. As we see the Fischl Whack being chosen as the second equipment for the Combat Cook, looking to push damage.
Right, and it's also just trying to freedom the board as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to get all these trying to get all these combat cooks to kind of battle it out with each other and try and
Mm-hmm.
get ahead of the board is probably what's going to be the case. And Crusty Geezers now just plays the cane and probably setting up for a few strikes with the cane next turn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like that's I think a great thing to bring up. But additionally, like I think now this could be an interesting angle, but if you really really wanted to, if you wanted to take that risk, you could go for like a block with the cane onto the 5/1 cook, and then use momentous choice to add health to the cane, and then next turn like immediately Furious Wielder, and then like use your first attack next turn with like a leveled up cane. And the
Yeah,
only thing that could really stop that in Big Flex Gamer's hand is that frostbite that we see. And I mentioned like we know that that's the only thing that Big Flex Gamers has, but that's a risk that Crusty Geezers would have to take, which is kind of the question I'm asking is like how much does Crusty Geezers want to go for it? Like
Look closely at their eyes.
how much are they
right.
willing to lose? Which is not a lot because this is the play-in. This is a very high stakes match.
Yeah, so they're just thinking now, trying to see if that is the case. I really do like that freeze card though.
Hmm.
Talking about like what might be the better hand, even though we've taken 11 damage this game, that freeze card is like
Game
really just what
changing.
you want. It's so golden, right?
Hmm.
You can just say, hey, any strike spell being played, I'm gonna freeze it. Any bad trait, I'm gonna freeze it. And that's
Hmm.
basically what might be the case now. But gonna let it happen and just keeping it for later so any potential strike spell does not become a worry.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's a really good point, and I think honestly, you go for the tumble. I think you go for the tumble here with the 5/3 cook.
I think so. You can even get the Buru out here, but it's quite nice to just go with the
Well, you could play
tumble
the
and then
Buru
have
and
expands
tumble,
up. Yeah, exactly.
and
Which,
then you could play the Buru,
getting a bit
tumble, and
damage.
condemn this turn.
Yeah,
That's
no,
I think
you can.
that's the angle. That is the thing to do.
Yeah, no, I agree. That is an angle and a half, and looks like BFG is actually gonna do that. Just get the condemn out. Well, get it procced. That is just
Well,
holding the.
I will
Uh,
say I don't like that they're taking away the overwhelm. I don't.
I
I think the overwhelm needs to stay because right now the condemn goes to 1 damage or to 1 cost, so you could clear the cane if it ends up blocking, and still get the damage onto the Nexus. If you really wanted to, if you wanted to push as much damage onto the Nexus and kill the cane,
It's a good point. I think the main reason though is they're not really going to go for a lethal turn at the moment, and there's a high chance that they're not going to block with this, right? And not
Mhm,
only that, but you do want to keep your combat cook healthy. This is
mhm,
kind of your only unit at the moment, and you might not be able to afford the free five. So
mhm,
being able to play the toughness on this unit, if they do block, gives you a bit more leeway for the following turn to
mhm.
just stabilize more.
Right. No, that's a good point. It's just nitpicking at this point because this is still such a good play, like, using that tumble, getting the attack, getting the condemn. You know that like it's a very high chance that you kill this turn. Now the momentous choice will come out, which is what
Like
it's been saved for.
we were talking about maybe not playing the Buru or playing it, and I think the reason might be is if they do have the momentous, you have the other condemned. Might not be a good play, but if we can get this Kane out of the board, but we're gonna do it anyway without the momentous played. Don't need to use this other
Mhm.
condemned and crusty geezers now. They don't really have any units. I
Well,
think
well,
maybe this cultist will bring out another
yeah.
Kane.
No, the cultists will proc the cane because they've played two Buru cultists, and then now the Darken will be the third to draw the cane. So like, that's why I don't think that they were too worried about losing the cane. Which also brings up the question: like, if they weren't too worried about losing the cane, why wouldn't they just block, save that 5 damage?
Right. Maybe it is to just get that condemned out. It could be a battle of
Mhm.
resources late game. We see basically BFG and Crusty users have the amount of resources
Oh,
they might want. Wow.
the
Unforgiving
unforgiving cold.
Cold is
That has to be
such a
it.
game breaker.
Like, you'd need units as crusty geezers, but like the unforgiving cold is just such a good card.
I think so. Like, I don't know if you can kind of afford the combat cook, and not only that, but you do have Jarol in hand. Jarol becomes a pseudo unit
Hmm.
as the weapon, and it's a pretty good unit to have, especially when Vayne is only free attack.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I think this is a good thing to bring up because you do kind of want to get rid of their vein. Excuse me, like it's seen 3 attacks now, 3 attacks or just two. I think just two
It
because it's only got the one triangle lit up. But
it might be only two, yeah.
yeah, like using this Dural, it has Challenger. It will just kill the vein pretty single handedly. And you did see a condemn. You saw a Vayne's condemn come out, so you like can kind of say like, oh, he's used a condemn and he has a Vayne on board. Like, what are the odds he's had all 3 Vayne in hand? Um, which is always something to worry about. But I think Dural could be good here. The bad thing is that he can't play the Crusty Geezer can't play Dural and Kane, so they're gonna go for the Kane here.
And Kane doing a similar thing and going to try and kill the Vayne.
Hmm.
The thing is, though, you do have Jarol, makes things awkward, and this whole game, Crusty Geezers just have been kind of allergic to momentous to get the momentum in this game. But
Hmm.
maybe they'll find a way to actually kind of get forward with it, find the
Hmm.
perfect spot. And I wonder if this will finally be the turn we'll see a momentous played.
I think honestly the
If we
play for
hesitate,
big flex
we
gamers is to
die,
put
and
the
I'm not
the
interested in
Aegis onto
dying.
Vayne, let the Kane challenge, and then they have to use a momentous choice to kill the Vayne if there's a Aegis on her. Like the Kane will only have 3 power, Vayne will have 3 health with tough, or they go for the official whack because now there's just the threat of trading out completely.
Not only trading out completely, but we're talking about the unforgiving cold, and it's just
Yeah,
say, hey, I'm gonna stat this, and your Kane's gonna basically go bye bye, right? So
yeah.
I do actually like this spreading this idea of basically Kane dying. You're already on the back end, right?
Hmm.
So being able to be basically a hero already and kind of
Hmm.
snowball it and try and make crusty geezers do plays like this is very, very scary for them.
Hmm. Yeah, it's just gonna be interesting to see. Now, the problem I think uh,
I'm not
is that like the
done.
Kane lives. The Kane still has 3 health, which is like a big thing to have because next turn it could just furious wielder into like killing something. But Now there is the 2-cost burst spell shield cards. There is a way to deny at least one of the strikes from from the cane. The problem is that there's still, the concerted strike. Now I don't think there's enough mana to play both next turn, which is a good thing.
Look closely
Yeah,
at their
I'm kind of confused. We just admitted that happened, but at the same time, it makes sense. They're trying to be a bit more patient here because I think they know Unforgiving Cold will be a blowout.
Mhm.
But we also just like we are just snowballing with pressure, right? They are
Mhm.
still slightly behind, which allows like things like a Concerted and a Furious to actually be quite committal. But
Mhm.
at the same time, Unforgiving Cold and Furious is 8 mana, and that's what we have right now, which
Mhm.
means we're not doing too bad.
No, this could be pretty big. Now, you mentioned that Furious Wielder and Unforgiving Cold are both 4. There's like we said, the spell shield and another Furious or Unforgiving Cold on the side of Big Flex Gamers. So, like there is answers. There is answers here on both sides. It's just gonna be, I think a game of watching that mana number. We've talked a lot about cost of what can be used to counter what, and I think it's gonna come down to who taps out first. Like, who's going to be the first person to run out of mana here?
I really like this tumble as well. Basically, just starting off the turn and like checking if this freeze will be a problem, and we definitely get that out of the crusty geezers. Another thing that's going to happen is Kane's going to go back into the hand, get the second strike, and this is where we're going to get Rust or the Shadow Assassin on the board.
Yeah. No, honestly, I think like with the current stage of the game, I think Rost is the angle. Um,
Bit of a Rust enjoyer. Hey, it's close, but they're almost dead as well, and
yeah.
they don't have any elusives. So if they just want to end the game, the Shadow Assassin is actually a really interesting play here. We only run up to one. I don't know how many they're running. Is like up to 3 cold, right? But I'm not too sure how many they're on. Could
I'm looking. There's only one Unforgiving Cold from. Hold on. There's only one Unforgiving Cold from Lunai or from like Crusty Geezer's deck, and there is only one. Both Unforgiving Colds have been drawn. The one from Crusty Geezers has been played. So
right.
if they've been tracking deck lists, if they've been tracking what's been used, then big flex gamers should know that there is no more Frostbite in the Crusty Geezer's hand or deck for that matter.
Wow, we just see the pass there. Doesn't want to
Wow.
attack at all.
Yeah.
I guess just scared of this Rast and the potential way to kind of just buff it up.
Now
So maybe
I think
Rast was right.
I think this riposte pull was pretty big. This riposte pull is very, very important for what what could stop a Ross from attacking. Now the problem I think is like I mentioned earlier, like this mana count. This mana count is going to be very important because even if you use riposte, like if the riposte is used on like if the Ross pulls the Buru cultist, which let's be real, it's going to pull the Buru cultist. It's going to kill the Buru cultist, heal the Nexus 2 mana or 2 health, excuse me. But then you can't even riposte the Buru cultist because it doesn't have enough base power to kill the Rost. Like you need 3 power at least to kill Rost with the riposte. There's a momentous choice in hand. Buru cultist is not killing Rost this turn, and that means there's 2 health going back to Crusty Geezer's hand or mana. 2 health going back to the Nexus, excuse me. It has to be.
Right.
I think it has to be a Frostbite. But
I
even
mean,
then, there's still a momentous choice that will put the Buru cultist at threat again.
right, and there we go. We see the freeze now. Basically, just
Save the
understanding the
vein.
threat of Ras and how it's going to trade down the board. And on the side, we're just going to get
Oh
Momentous
wow.
take out the vein, and this is looking okay. I mean, Big Flex Gamers still has a decent attack, especially with the repos. We also got a Kane to kind of get
Finally.
our, yeah, finally again. But play. Okay, what does the powder do? Is there any relevance to this, or are we just playing it? Oh, on the bureau. Interesting. With the Colchis and
Yeah.
attacking with a weapon, this is actually 3 damage. Okay. Is there
Yeah.
a way we can actually win here? We've seen one unforgiving cold.
So I think as long as the concerted strike is in hand for Krusty Geezers, like I don't think there is a way um to save this. I think I'm trying to think how they use this riposte to kill the Ross without like trading out, but
Well,
like it's very hard to do.
if they tap under 9 mana, we actually do have a potential to win, I'm pretty sure, because of the expanse. Right? Because we have the repost, it goes to a 9/6. If they don't trade well and then gets a good +3, like let's say they don't
But,
pull up
but
with the
but
Rast.
the concerted strike will kill any unit even through the riposte barrier because
Right, but
the
you
this
have spell shield, right? So
true.
depending on how they concerted here, this is actually
No, actually, you're right. That's. I'm sorry, I forgot that the spell shield was in hand. So yeah, this could be big. This could be important.
I
So
mean, the concerted still goes through though, right? So you concerted and then you still just Furious Will to pop the spell shield. And then that will actually also stop the repost as well if you actually auto right. But you're just letting their board go down, and this makes sense if you're getting a good Rast out. A Rast trade, that is, but dealing 5 damage, is there a way we can go for lethal? And BFG is going for it here, putting them down to 10 right now, but we will see this concerted strike coming out. And we don't actually have lethal now. Like, this expanse won't get you the game here unless they Furious Willed it instead of concerted. That is literally your
oh,
only chance, but you can't.
oh
You can't. So
no, they can play both, but they can play both. And the bad part
wait,
is
hold
you
on.
can do this. You can
Wait, hold
Furious
on.
Wielder
Okay.
something that's not the card that you want to kill. You can Furious Wielder something like this. If the spell shield goes down onto that, you concerted strike. You concerted strike the 9/6 kill it. The concerted strike kills it. Yeah, the big
EMG.
flex Earth emote doesn't matter. There's a concerted strike that's going to come out right now, and it kills the 9/6. There's nothing that can be done.
Okay. There's still a chance for BFG to actually win here, and it's if they just concede with a 2-1 and we can draw into a momentous. But that's not going to be the case. They just kill the. They don't decide to kill the 9/6
Kill the
that's attacking.
9/6. You could kill the
No,
9/6 and save the draw.
Kegs are scary. Okay, this is a TKG team, and they understand the power of Kegs and how scary they are. So they want that absolutely gone, and that's what they do. I don't know if that's correct though, and
The
like
9/6.
the,
You save so much more damage. You save the draw and you save the damage, and then okay, sure, the Buru Cultist does 3 damage with its skill once. That 9/6 is still a threat.
it's a big threat. Like yeah, you just get rid of the
Like
9/6
look,
there. The
the
momentous, like you just trade with the
next turn,
5/7.
next turn, Ross is going to challenge the Buru Cultist, like we've said he's going to do every turn, which he's done every turn. And you know what happens immediately after the Ross attacks the Buru Cultist? The what's his face? The cult, the other one, the 6/6 overwhelm, uses Cataclysm twice.
I mean, okay,
Okay, wow.
I
Okay,
mean, no,
all
no,
right.
no. So the momentous, like, if they do have momentous, I don't actually think they can kill, because the concerted just pops the
Yeah.
barrier, right? So there is like relevance there. Kind of getting a bit ahead, but there is a reason for that play, and it's literally playing around the momentous. We haven't seen any in the game for BFG, so it makes sense. Basically, TKG is just gonna slow it down. They understood that from taking the Rast
Okay.
pick, right, and just gonna keep feeding this Rast and make it big enough so that it can kind of swindle the game. And it makes sense, right? If BFG doesn't get the Kane out early and they can't really combat you know, the level up with the other Kane on the board, you're just gonna get behind. And they've gone for that lethal, but Crusty Geezers is just gonna keep chomping and making this Rust big as possible. But saying that, there's almost a lethal potential, right?
There is, and there isn't. So this is 5 damage to the Nexus. That can't really anything be done. The Vayne can come out, and then that
You have
that is
lethal here if they Vayne, right?
It's still lethal.
Crusty Geezers just has to play around Catalyst here, but if they don't and they play the Vayne, that will be lethal.
Crusty Geezers can't really play anything.
And there it is. There's the Vayne. We have Cataclysm here. Not only that, but we also have the single on the Ras. I don't know how. No, that wouldn't work. But what does work is
single on the Ross is not good because the Ross wins. The Ross doesn't die, which means it doesn't take damage.
Yeah, right. And then it heals back up. But I know what is dying, and that is the Vayne. Big Flick David goes for the win here.
That was interesting. That was interesting. And I think that was an interesting match. I think the problem though is that I think what it came down to the misplay that ended the game was killing the kegs and not killing the Piltover cultist, because it was 9-6. It was doing 7 damage to the Nexus no matter what, and then like you stopped three spell damage essentially with killing the kegs, but you could have killed the unit, and that unit went on to Cataclysm 2 other units and win the game. Like that card with Overwhelm was so big of a threat, especially since like you're playing the same deck. You both have Cataclysm. You both have like other skills. You can't leave something like that up on the board. Like you save 3 damage by killing kegs as opposed to like saving a ton of more damage and taking out a unit, because the kegs kill themselves anyways at the end of the turn or whenever the spell goes off.
You did have the momentous scare though, so I do understand for that play. And the things with those mirrors is like there's just random lethals that kind of come out of nowhere, and as a caster, like you just like you never see it till it actually happens, and that's exactly what happened there. Krusty Geezers just like played the Vayne. We had the double Catalysm, and Big Flick's Gamer was always trying to play to win, and they got rewarded. Now it might be a similar case where we're gonna see lines like that, because this is what Red Glen can do as well. Find a big attack, especially with Reckoners. And talking about hands, this is kind of slow for both teams right now.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting to see, just because I think it's interesting that, Big Flex Gamers didn't opt to play the Boisterous Host. The 1-drop 2/1, like, sure, maybe it gets killed instantly, but it adds immediately to the...
It's just so you don't get value off the parlay, and it's quite nice, I think, especially because you don't have a 2-drop play, and you also know you have the +2/+2 in hand. It gives you a lot of nice stuff to slow down, the Plunder blocks. Because what's going to be scary is the Sedge, right? If they have Sedge out and they have a good way to kind of proc it for a specific turn, then it gets scary if you're a Red Queen player. So I really do just like holding on the Boisterous Host.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to bring up. Now we are going to see the Make It Rain. Or what was just taken out of the hand? For
I'm not
Geezers?
sure. I missed for a second, but it's the Spirits Unleashed. Just getting it out, kind of procking, and basically making any other unit a bit bigger, right? This is a bit scary if they had a 3-drop into a 4-drop, and they do. So it might look okay, but spending 5 mana is a lot, especially for a deck that kind of takes advantage of you just doing nothing. And I think BFG is definitely happy to see that.
Yeah, and now we see the Katarina get dropped. And I was going to ask why they bothered saving the Mark of the Isles, but I can see now why they bothered saving Mark of the Isles, because, there's 2 Make It Rains in hand, and since Katarina is the only card on the board, they will both target her and kill it. So that's where the Mark of the Isles, I think, will come in to save the Katarina from the spell damage, get the attack off, and then, fulfill that requirement of the Eternal Dancer's Katarina recycle.
but the Shell Shocker here is it's okay.
Mhm.
It's probably your best pickup if you want to go for this double make it rain line. And the problem is you might have to. You're already behind. You haven't
Mhm.
had that fast curve that you wanted, and because of that, you have to do something desperate, and that might actually be the double make it rain.
Yeah. Like this is gonna be difficult just because, you do have to make a choice like that. Like you said,
And
you are pretty behind already.
right, and I, looking at this block, that could be the case. They're just waiting here. This is a thing with backseating. You're talking to three other players, and you want to see what's happening. And there it is, double make it rain. Maybe not even trying to block here, but they might want to because I know and you know that this Katarina is just going to get buffed right now.
Mhm. Ooh. Okay. They're predicting that it will happen. They're assuming something is going to happen as we see the big flex come out, and then there's a 6-4 Katarina now, so it's not dying.
Right. Not only is
Now,
it not dining, but now you just have a decent amount of pressure. Playing the Katarina next turn
Mhm.
will be quite nice, especially because you have the Glen on.
No one gets in my way.
Mhm. Oh, I thought the Katarina dies. Like I thought that the ephemeral
No.
effect happens before Katarina would recall herself. I don't know. I thought that she would die before she recalls herself, but whatever. We're
No,
we're
so,
living.
so she
Still a
doesn't die. The thing with recall and ephemeral is it just goes back in hand, and we see that.
Mhm.
Quietus is an insane pickup, by the way.
Yeah, no, the Quietus should be pretty interesting. Um, I don't really know how many weak cards there are in Krusty Geezer's deck to kill with, but having that to take care of an equipment or two if it does come out, should be nice. The question I'm
It,
having now is how do you get this Eternal Dancer Gwen recycle going? Do you just sacrifice the Katarina on a block?
you okay? So you could definitely go. Hey, I want to go for this infinite thing, but I think we're already ahead enough that that
Hmm.
doesn't matter. And just also say with the Quietus, I forgot that Spirits is a card and it has been played, so it actually has no value anymore. So
Hmm.
it's actually a real bad pickup. But saying that, I know I'm looking at the hand of BFG and I'm liking it. I think you can just put pressure here, and
Hmm.
if you don't see a siege on the side of Krusty Geezers, you're definitely going to be very, very favored at the moment.
So what would Krusty Geezers want by not playing anything? Because the Katarina's coming out.
You're basically just saying if they do play Katarina, do I want to be playing this Gangplank or do I want to be playing the what do you call it, the Butcher, right? Or you even have players
when
with the draw.
when you started that sentence, you said when they play the Katarina, you need to decide whether they're starting to wanting to play this game. I thought you were gonna say that whether they want to play
And
this game.
probably cut out there.
No, no, I was just laughing. I thought you were gonna say, oh, they might not want to play this game, but
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, maybe they don't want to play this game, just surrender.
yeah, this
But
is looking rough.
they do decide with the Butcher, and it's still looking scary. Now we flip the, I maybe we don't flip the Glen. No, we should be able to flip the Glen here, and then we have the attack token. You have basically nothing besides the draw to kind of stop the Glen attack, and even then, now you just play Katarina, and that will just be lethal.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
just like you said, as in the next steps for this game, you play the Blade's Edge on the Nexus. That's 3 health. 3 health Nexus for Krusty Geezers. You open attack with the Gwen for 9 damage, I think it will be. You play the 5 cost burst spawn 2 to block the first time. The Katarina comes out and then you lose.
pretty much, Krusty Geezers, they didn't really have a fast hand at the start, and even though this isn't lethal in the action, this Katarina coming out with the Blade's Edge will be the end for Krusty Geezers for round one. BFG putting out the bro fist in there, making it a bit of a sportsmanship angle, and they will be taking the first set. for
Yeah,
the day.
the gauntlet has been thrown, I think, with this second match from Big Flex Gamers. You know, showing that like the first game was definitely a brawl, but this one was very handily won by Big Flex Gamers. Now, part of that was their draw. They pulled a very strong hand to set up this Katarina early. But I think, you know, what
Oh, my camera's gone.
yeah.
I'll sort that out in a second. Trust me, I'm not a black screen.
No,
I am a person.
but I think what that second game showed was that, like, you know, Krusty Gamer, or excuse me, Big Flex Gamers knows what they want. They know how to look for the win in like the most efficient line for them. And also play in like still a reactive sense to, you know, have the correct answer for what the opponent team will have. So congratulations to Big Flex Gamers for taking the first win of the day. They still have to win another one to guarantee themselves into the playoff bracket. Now that's like I said, something that's very important. So it should be, you know, a pretty interesting series to watch. We are going to see, I think it is who's next, Wookie?
Should be me with my nothing. EU farmers.
So yeah, so we'll be seeing, yeah, like you said, anymore EU Farmers versus Krusty Geezers. So Krusty Geezers are gonna have to redeem themselves if they want to come back in this, because they need to, you know, not lose. That's gonna be the most important thing. They have to win this game if they want to have a chance to come back, because they also have an 0-2 deficit in their game split. So very important that they win this next match. Anything you want to say before we cut to a quick intermission?
I don't think so. I think it's the perfect time to cut for an intermission because I'm not here right now on the stream. I'm just happy for the matches coming up, but I think it would be. Oh, there I am. Sorry about that. Coming from the shadows and talking about the game. I'm excited to see EU Farmers. I
Hmm.
think they are a team from the Americas, a Latin team to be exact, and they are good players. And I think they have a lot of redemption that they want to kind of bring because they did lose in the Americas. So when you lose in the Americas, now you're just going to be focusing on the potential chance to win another
Right.
tournament, and this is the European. Uh, EMEA Aegis. And I think if that happens, they know what they want to bring, and they brought unique stuff, so they really want to show off today.
Hmm. All right. Well, with that, we'll be cutting to a brief intermission before we come back with Krusty Geezers and EU Farmers. Stick right there. We'll be back in a few. What's up, everyone? We're back with a little bit more action for the Aegis Esports Legends of Runeterra EMEA play-in stage. I'm Domcast, joined by any more. We just saw Krusty Gamers take an 0-2 loss to the Big Flex
Yep.
Gamers. Now, it's very important now that we establish this, that Krusty Gamers has to win 2-0 over over EU Farmers now.
EU
For them
farmers,
to
but
give them the best chance of not going into a tiebreaker. To give them the best chance. Now we're in a bit of a rough stage here because two teams move on from the 3-team play-in bracket. So there could be the opportunity for a 3-way tie. And when it comes down to that, you go for this game split. So like whether a team won 2-0, won 2-1, or lost 1-2, lost 0-2. If Krusty Gamers wins 2-0, they will be 2-2 in their game split, and then it comes down to if EU Farmers can beat Krusty or can beat Big Flex, then we're into a one or a big tie, a three-way tie. But if EU Farmers loses, then there's no worry for Krusty Gamers because they're 1-1 and EU Farmers are 0-2. But we'll get into all of that stuff later because it'll be a big mess if there's a 3-way tie. But Krusty Gamers just needs to focus on one thing: winning 2-0. And then if they can't win
winning.
2-0, just winning. Just winning. Yeah, just
They
winning.
have to just
Ideally,
win.
just winning. Sorry. Yeah, just winning.
Before any of that is, they just have to win. But
They just have to
talking
win.
about deck lists and EU farmers, this deck list is also proudly sponsored by Runeterra AR, one of the best sites you can have for making decks, for finding decks, basically finding anything you really want for Runeterra. If you don't really know what meta to play, this is definitely the best site to go on, and maybe this is what EU farmers have done because they have brought kind of a standard thing nowadays. I think Pursuit of Perfection hasn't, really seen the day of light for a while, but it's definitely found its way through in this meta, and this is an amazing deck. It's basically a Seraphine deck, but you remove the Seraphine so you can kind of play double bar in your lineup, and you do a lot of wonders like this. It has very pile-like attributes going back all the way to other, formats, and you're just running the good cards. You've got Drum Solo, you've got your Aphelios to kind of stabilize the mid game, and you're just playing a lot of one-offs to get this pursuit of. And it's a really nice deck. You kind of just play the game out, stabilize, and go, oh, hey, I can play my Pursuit of Perfection. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's always interesting to see like some of those, not necessarily one-off cards, but like they are just sort of like quirky if they in if any other word doesn't come to mind because Pursuit of Perfection is its own sort of like once you do enough of this very weird requirement, you get a really powerful unit. So this will be interesting to watch. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And, like you mentioned, Aphelios there to stabilize the mid game. Victor also able to provide a win condition with a couple of lucky keyword rolls. So it'll be fun to watch as
Pretty
we move
much.
on to the deck
And
from Krusty Gamers. Or, just the
look,
full
we're
lineup. We're not
going
going back to
right
Krusty
in.
Gamers.
We did that last round, Dom. But
Yeah, I guess there's
now
nothing else to really look at for Krusty Gamers because we covered the Aphelios or the not Aphelios, the J4 Aurelion Soliona deck, and we saw the other two in play. Now, one thing to talk about, I think, important is the Annie TF Katarina deck. So I think this is going to be a very, very important deck, just because honestly, I don't really think it wins any of the matchups into Krusty Geezers.
it's
It
really
plays the best shot against Kane Vane.
it. You might be right. I think it has legs against Plunder.
Maybe.
I'm not
And
actually sure.
and
Maybe
and
it is
I think the
actually just
problem with
bad.
Plunder is, like, both players are just trying to burn the other person before they lose. Like, you're both playing the same game, just with different cards, like, rushing down the other opponent's Nexus. And
I
it's gonna
think
be interesting to see. I'm curious. Krusty Geezers could really sway this match with their ban.
I think Spirits is basically like Spirits Unleashed might just help you in that matchup,
Mm-hmm.
but this is looking good for the Crusty Geezers.
Mm-hmm.
You're okay, so like I know Leona Fearless, if you're a good player, you can actually beat Seraphine.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if the EU farmers aren't that good. And you bring the Noxus version as well, which is very weird. Slightly
Mm-hmm.
better into this Big Demacia though, so I'm not sure, but I think you could still struggle against Kane where with other Israel like Seraphine decklifts, if it was Bandle, the Kane has a better chance. So it might the Kane might struggle a tiny bit more into the Noxus version, but
Mm-hmm.
probably not too much of a worry. And the ban's actually on the anti-TF. Makes sense as well. Like we're saying, hey, this doesn't beat anything, but it might do. We're not too sure of the matchups, and this is very standard, especially when people bring double bar, because you just want to beat the double bar decks if you go into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting to see. We're waiting to see what does get banned. Yeah. Oh wow, they take away the Annie Katarina TF. So maybe I'm just not like familiar enough with that deck because I would have imagined that like you leave that deck up, but then the plunder is taken away as well. So neither team really wants to deal with the burn.
I mean, like, I really don't like this Plunder pick. So, like, this is such a bad ban, I'll be honest. Plunder's so 50 into everything. It's not that good. Like, I'll be honest, it can just lose straight up due to hands.
Mm-hmm.
And because the Aphelios doesn't actually have Vine in the deck, you'll just ban him to Kane. So maybe this is just an understanding of not knowing matchups, but this is, I don't know. I really, really dislike this ban from EU farmers, especially just disrespecting maybe the potential on the Leona or the Kane. Like, it's not going to go well if they kept
Mm-hmm.
up double bar, and that's exactly what they did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe there's just something that we haven't seen yet from these decks because I'm not really sure. I'm excited to see what happens. Just because we get to see the Leona J4 Asol deck just should be a fun variety as opposed to just another Seraphine deck. But no, I think it'll be interesting. I actually really hyped for EU farmers and Crusty Users just because they are bringing variety. EU farmers bringing Seraphine, but the Pursuit of Perfection should be fun to watch. Leona Asol J4 should be fun to watch. Just waiting to get into that first matchup between the two. Still, I'm surprised they took away the burn, the plunder, and the burn.
Mm. It's burn is. Are you saying as an anti-TF or as in plunder
The
burn?
the
Like,
Annie TF.
so it's not actually burn.
Is
So
it not?
that's no. So that's actually MF Swain is a common idea of burn, but this is a control deck. That whole
Mhm.
lineup is actually control, and
Okay.
it basically just like it's okay into Leona, and it's like it's slightly unfavored into Kane. And I'm not too sure about the Plunder matchup, but maybe they're just scared of that, and they want double bar, and that's exactly what they have done. And talking about a bar deck, we see Israel Seraphine on the side of EU Farmers versus Crusty Geezer's Kane Vane once again.
Yeah, that's honestly not that big of a surprise. That's kind of what they opted for the first time is to just run that Kane Vane
I will take this power in my
And
lady's name.
as the opener.
traditionally,
Monsters die.
yeah, and traditionally Vayne is good into actual Israel Seraphine, especially with Seraphine being at 9 targets. Like, okay, this is kind of a weird statement to say, right? Because we've been seeing Seraphine in the meta again and being like, "Yo, Anemo, what are you talking about? Like 9 target Seraphine is still good. It is, but the thing is with the Noxus deck, it falls off a lot because you can't really run an inconsistent amount of spells for it
Hmm.
to go well.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. When Seraphine came out, I was like, oh wow, this is gonna be like better karma. But with that 2 cost restriction, it does kind of limit you a huge amount of like what you're allowed to actually copy. Um, now I'm glad they nerfed it. She definitely was a little bit too strong, especially with Ezreal. But in terms of where this game is going currently, like it's kind of actually a pretty good hand for EU farmers because they do have a lot of really good early game clear, especially since Krusty Geezers has honestly some pretty beefy units. With this Disintegrate pull from EU Farmers, with the Blade's Edge, with the Ravenous Flock, could very easily go for a Blade's Edge here with a Disintegrate, and take the kill very easily.
I really like this. The thing with Israel Seraphine is you have to get the Vayne off the board fast as possible. It's a bit different than other matchups. Kane has a bit more kind of free ability with having important units, but if you get the Kane off straight away, the deck is less impressive. So the Vayne straight away, and the deck is less impressive.
Yeah, and I actually, like you mentioned, clearing the Vayne right away. I'm glad that EU Farmers did that. Like immediately, Vayne comes out. They had enough to kill it. They killed it that turn. Because if you allowed it like opportunity time to set up, like if Krusty Geezers was given like just another turn, like to be able to drop that Aegis down onto the Vayne, like Disintegrate would have hit, but then the Blade's Edge would have struck the tough, done nothing, and then no kill. Like very, very good on EU Farmers for just like taking the opportunity that was presented to them immediately, like, and not worrying about like, oh, is this the best thing, like the most efficient, the best angle or best route, because like as long as the Vayne's dead, it's dead. That's a win for their deck.
Right, and that's the same with the Flock. The Flock just loses to Momentous, so I really do like the Disintegrate there. And wow, EU Farmers just being aggressive. They've been respecting the Momentous, but now they're going, hey, I don't really matter much if my 1/1 dies, but they hold it back, giving it a bit of taunting to Krusty Geezers, going, I'm going to just like be a bit cheeky. And now it's Krusty Geezers in. They've got a pretty standard turn, I think. What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, I think Krusty Geezers have a pretty yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward for them actually. You drop the Buru, I believe. I think that's the Buru into. You can't play Gerald because it's a 5 cost, but no, I guess they're gonna go for the other one first, the Piltover Cultist.
And Entreat's such a weird pickup, right? Because Kane is basically just an Entreat anyway, so you're like, oh, what am I doing? Do I just try and hope to get the Vayne?
Yeah, no, I think you just wait for one of your Canes to be pulled, or for the Cultist proc to go off and pull it for you, and then hit the Entreat, since it's more likely, or it goes from being more likely you pull a Cane with Entreat to being even that you pull a Vayne and a Cane, since there's only 2 left in your deck. Now this is an interesting pick here for EU Farmers. They're choosing between Intimidating Roar and Blood in the Water, because they don't have Blade Dance. There's absolutely 0 point in picking Storm of Blades.
Only okay. What's the reason why Blades would be good? Like if you get maybe Spirits Unleashed from the second one, and then maybe you can get that with Seraphine, and then you can attack with a free sometimes. There's like the only real relevance that they would ever have to be good, but yeah, no, you throw that away. You get Intimidating Roar, which is such a good stall turn card, right?
Yeah, no, I think Intimidating Roar is definitely the choice here. The deal 1 then rally, convenient, but you're not really attacking with this deck. It would be a super high roll probably in any other deck, but you're kind of waiting for Ezreal to come out. You're waiting for Seraphine to come out, and then just go for like a big burst of damage with spells and Ezreal passives. So I think the Roar, like you said, is the better choice, and can't be used correct like right now, but
it just basically punishes any potential development, which can happen a lot of the time, I think. Especially if you have Tumble, they might just tumble straight off the bat, and then you go, oh, look at me, I'm going to be Intimidating Roaring. And that's like very, very high as a possibility. I think right now, though, looking at these hands, we've got a Flock for the 5/3. We've got a Sentry, but we kind of need to get something to go here. There's not really much removal going in. If we find another Vayne from the 0 mana in trait, the pressure will be starting to happen on the side of Krusty Geezers.
Now, wait, was this Cane from the Cultist passive, or was this Cane drawn normally?
I think it was the Cultist package
Okay.
because it popped in its hand randomly.
Okay.
But I'm not like forcefully staring at their hand, so I'm not sure.
All right. I'll assume it's from the cultist proc. So yeah, I think the entreat should be convenient actually. Just nice to have. Um, this is a really interesting angle here. I think EU farmers pulling both solos is kind of unfortunate, just because like they haven't been able to hit the drum solo because they also haven't like had spells to play because there's 2 drum solos in their hand.
Exactly, and not only that, but not getting the spell off Ezreal was so horrible. You can't actually kill the Kayn here, and now this Flock is literally sitting in your hand and saying, "Hey, I can only kill the 5-3. What's going on?" And ouch, that must hurt. Getting a raw drum solo 5-mana draw to is not what you want to see from EU farmers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's part of the drawback of drum solo. You want to hit the flow so that the cards you draw are cheaper, since you're paying 5 mana to draw them in the first place. Yeah, and now
Yeah,
we're gonna see the Ravenous Flock come out to clear out at least 5 damage from Crusty Geezers.
talking
But that
about
doesn't even
flow,
matter.
that
There's a
was
momentous
almost
choice.
lethal.
There's a momentous
Yeah,
choice.
Momentous here. So we have Momentous. This goes up to a out of range. You're dealing 8, 11, 12. You've actually also got the catch. So you're 1 off here, but the tumble should get you game with an equipment. Now, there is lines though, okay? Let's not get ahead of ourselves. EU Farmers has one choice here if they go for this line, and it's a time trick. A bit awkward because you can't really do anything else at the moment. But this is literally, if this happens with the Momentous, we're praying with a time trick. Oh,
Ooh.
even better, get the Aegis out. Kind of plays around certain things. Wait, yep, that heals it. I'm not freaking out, and this is a perfect idea from Crusty Geezers playing
Mhm.
around potential pings. But it still loses. It doesn't even. No, this is amazing. Actually, it kind of going all over the place. But that play was so good that it threw me off because you actually play around the Mystic as well because you have the Momentous.
And now this is just lethal. You tumble. You tumble with the cane. You tumble.
So
You tumble. Put the combat reel on the cane, and then you're up to like 5 damage.
right, they do have the block though. So I think there was a lethal with the Momentous play because we didn't lose that attack and
Mhm.
we actually can deal enough. But that's
But
like
the cane
resulting
levels up
in not
here
having anything. Kane does level here, but he doesn't
if they
level
tumble. If they tumble.
before the. Yeah, yeah. So, like, the thing is, the Kane does level, but you still don't have an attack turn, right? So,
Mhm.
what you're doing is you're just removing the free, and it's not doing much. So, even though that play from Krusty Geezers looked cool, you do miss a potential lethal line. But, like, at the same time, you're playing around stuff, and this is just good because you do slow down pressure. Kind of make EU farmers get really on the back foot because they had to play bar here.
Yeah, and there we go. There's 1 damage from the Buru cultist and a kill for the cane as well as the level up. So I don't know where EU farmers comes back from this one. I think this is a nice little artifacting encoding error, but I don't know. Like I don't think there's too convenient of a way back. This is, I think, you were talking about earlier, one of the angles where you go blue cane. Like you just take the elusive, get the free kill.
Oh, for sure. Blue Cane is 100% the case. I think like EU farmers is kind of struggling with a few things. I'm trying to think of the way you win here. So we don't have another tumble unless we top deck Vayne, and I think if we do that, that's just game, right? Like you need to find another disintegrate, and even then, I think you're just 2 behind because you've already played a disintegrate, you've already played multiple of your pings, so they're gonna be normal mana, and if you're doing that and you don't have Ezreal or Seraphine, you're just always gonna be behind here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you mentioned it. There's you as good as the Seraphine Ezreal deck it can be. It absolutely needs the champions. Whereas, Crusty Geezers, the Cane and the Vayne make the win very, very simple, but like the Weaponsmiths and the Cultists are strong enough on their own to provide a good amount of pressure.
Yeah, and that's what the Kane deck does a lot of the time. You don't really, so you can either find like nasty lethals just randomly, but other times you just keep putting pressure onto the Ezreal deck or the Seraphine deck, and they just can't do anything with it.
Oh,
And
Cataclysm.
this is the perfect
Oh,
example.
wait,
And
no, it's...
Catalysm is good if we had Rust.
Oh, yeah.
It's it's still, I mean, like, it doesn't really change anything. I don't think we're going to be losing here, especially because we just have second Kane, right? So we're
Mhm.
forcing this idea of lethal, and you really, really need to find Disintegrate with a ping here. Oh,
Mhm.
that's something. They time trick off the bat. They do find the Mystic Shot, but at the same time, Israel is a win con. Quite an awkward scenario. But it's just like delaying the inevitable, right? If we can try and kill this Kane anyway, you just lose next turn. So I don't really know if there's much to do. Like, you're trying to think of miracles. You either go for the
Mhm.
I'm gonna play to survive and try and find my only miracle out, or I'm just gonna take Israel anyway and like maybe lose.
Well, Ezreal's not even leveled up, and Ezreal can attack because of the Cane. And
Right.
I don't think there is like, this is just such an unfortunate match for EU farmers, because I don't think there is any way that they can come back from this.
The Entomb is
Entomb's
juicy.
the
I
way you can
mean,
come back from this, but you still don't have
you
enough blockers.
use Entomb the 4/6, but like we're saying, these walkers become awkward. Okay, so let's think. Is there any literal way here? We've got a song spinner in hand. So we have the Entomb. They're gonna be doing the Kane stuff right now. We Entomb that. The Kane stuff can't really pop off because of the leader, but even just getting the Jural out here, I think there's no potential chance for anything.
Yeah, and
So,
there's the Jural. How convenient for that.
I was thinking like maybe we could have a triple stun hand from the uh song spinner potentially. Like that isn't a possibility. It's like super low. Like getting two of like something like a stun is very small, but it's super low.
Yeah,
And
like
wow, they just
rolling steel
entomb the
tempest
Jural here, and this means that this is lethal, right? We have the elusive, and this will be game. Playing the Kane with a free attack, and
Well,
EU farmers.
I think they're gonna try and get the the roar, the intimidating roar out, but you don't even need to do anything next turn from Crusty Users except for attack.
Full open, right? But like, let's just end this game now.
Yeah.
I think let's just use this Kane and just end it now. We've been in this game for too long, and the Catalysm is just gonna just stall the game for a bit more. I don't know why you like. What's the play around? We've seen a Blaze Edge. So they don't have a zero amount of Blaze Edge. They can't disintegrate either. There's nothing actually you can do, but I guess hey, it doesn't matter. They're always going to be dead in the scenario. Just maybe end of the turn. Just click F4 EU farmers so they can get into the next game.
Yeah. And oh well, this doesn't matter because you need more
It's
time.
just sad.
You just need more time.
It's
and
just sad, yeah.
less units from Crusty Geezers. But that's gonna be the win. There's like, okay, Magical Journey. Yeah.
I want to be optimistic,
Ooh.
but this is
Oh, nah, it's still not enough. Song of the Owls is still not enough to save him.
get a zero mana Battle Fury, maybe. Okay. That's like no. There's just no way. I don't.
May I see your invite?
Right, like even trying to go for anything here, like you have the concerted. There's just nothing at all. It's
Like,
cute to try and
it
survive.
doesn't
But
even matter. Like, the consider doesn't. They don't need to do anything.
no, they don't have to do anything at all. I think the only thing with like Song Spinner was what literally triple stun, right? And then you're like in the game, but then you have to like hope they can't kill you. There's like nothing, like honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the odds are for rolling a Steel Tempest 3 times in a row with one Song Spinner, because that's like the only thing. Nah, I still wouldn't have said it because there was 4 attackers still. 4 attackers, and you could at most, in a perfect world, at the highest of rolls, get 3 Steel Tempests. So there still wouldn't have been enough to like save that block, I guess. I mean,
It would be less of a 0%, like a 1% chance, right? Like a
yeah.
0.001% chance. Because I've never seen that. Like this is like coping, right? I'm just doing
It,
the
it's
graceful
theoretically
understand.
possible. It's
Yeah.
theoretically possible, but like let's be real, it's not happening. And
Mm.
Krusty Gamers played that game actually amazingly well. Like even with the early Vayne takeaway, with all that other stuff that was going on, they still managed to like maintain control of the board and just push for that win, albeit a little bit leisurely, but very very like a guaranteed way, a very sure win for them.
Yeah, right. Like doing our due diligence of like seeing a potential out in this scenario, right? Because that's what we should do as casters. But we're in the next game now, and Solari Soldier is quite good on the Leona. So I'm assuming what you want is just pressure, right? The Leona is good. Um, I don't think EU farmers actually want Seraphine in their hand for specific reasons for that. You kind of want Seraphine late. Majority of reasons is because you don't want it to get challenged. You don't really want it to be a liability, and they keep it, and they disagree with my with my line at least.
Well, now I think I agree with you. You wanna wait. Like there's a lot of champions like that. You know, Jinx, you wanna wait until she's like the last card you play. Seraphine, you wanna wait until she's leveled up to play her. And I agree that like you don't want to have Seraphine on board just because of like, Leona's change to have Challenger now. But you still want to have the card for when you do eventually become able to play it. Because last game, they went the whole game without drawing one Seraphine. Like ones they went the whole game, and now I think they definitely want to have that Seraphine when they eventually get the opportunity to play it.
Yeah, it's just like Stockholm syndrome. They missed it for so much, and they're like, I want you. I want the Seraphine. I don't care if it's not correct. I just want it. And I mean, it's fine. Like, you need some type of engine, and at least if you know that it's in your hand, you're not going to be worrying about the late game trying to find it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and aside from that, like EU Farmer's Hand, I think is pretty good. Like it has the other house spider, it has the other, or it has a ravenous flock, it has a blaze edge, it has a thermo beam, and it has the peacemaker. So very very simple, I think, to maintain a bit of control over this board, and potentially threaten that Leona.
Right. And yeah, that's the thing with the Noxus version, at least, is just slightly better into this Leona. You know, like you can actually damage the Leona and just block it, but these spiders are kind of chilling. Just 2/2s going for 2/2s.
Mhm.
Nothing much really going on, but it definitely
Fact.
will pick up when we get to turn 5.
Yeah, just handshaking units right now, because like the important thing for EU farmers is having blockers and maintaining control of the board. So this is a very very easy trade for them to make, like you mentioned, and it's difficult, I think, to talk about where this game will go, because while both teams have like the cards that they want to have eventually, like they don't necessarily have too much set up. Like, okay, we'll see this attack go off, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we Blades Edge the Solari, but I honestly don't think they will, just because it is 1 health. Like the Spiderlings could take care of it.
Yeah, you really want it for your Leona. You even need it for ASOL if the game goes late.
Hmm.
But assuming the basis is that like you want the Disintegrate and the Blazes, right? Especially with a Seraphine that can actually just kill a ASOL. But there's a lot more threats that this Blade is gonna be instead of just being a little single ping.
Hmm. Now, they do have a meteor shower, so that could be convenient for clearing, EU farmers. Meteor shower is 4 and 1, so that will be lethal onto the Seraphine when she does get dropped eventually. So this is going to be a very very back and forth game, I think, of who can maintain the board the longest.
Right. So EU farmers, like, you'll be probably thinking, like, whenever someone plays a Solari, you can have an idea of what card it will be, right? It's usually like the 5-drop card, which is the shower, or like something like Comet. So if the game goes slow enough, they are allowed to just play Seraphine when it's leveled and that gets it out of range. There are other things though that makes it awkward, like the single combat. And as the Israel Seraphine player, you have to be prepared for this. You have to actually know that I got to have all these tools like Disintegrate to be on the, basically on the cusp of being ready. And if I can do that while I play my Seraphine, I'm going to be in a very favorable position. But if they don't do that, this game is going to get really, really rough, and the way to win is going to be very limited.
There's this song spinner that could be convenient. Wait until Krusty Greasers plays a bit of mana, and this could be a really good turn to play the song spinner. If Krusty Greasers opts into that, Leona opts into like something else that taps them out on mana, like removes a lot of the potential of them. Yeah, like this, exactly like this, like 4 mana. That's a really good opportunity, I think, for the song spinner. You have 8 mana, just get that card going, like get those spells into your hands, so that you have like that safe opportunity to spend 7 mana.
I think like the Songsman is such a good pickup just because it's going to be level Seraphine faster, right? We're talking about basically this game is going to go slow, but you don't really want it to go as slow if you can find what you need. And yeah, just EU farmers picking up some okay hits. Entrapment's kind of funny. I actually think out of all the matchups, Entrapment might be the most value.
Why didn't they choose the creation card? Why didn't they choose the armed the armed gearhead creation? That could have been
like Creations is a good card, and it might be actually somewhat correct, but I don't hate the Entrapment because I think Entrapment might get the most value in any matchup because Leona Aesol is a very slow deck.
More entrapments. Let's go.
Well, so we're gonna pick the unit or the spell here.
Honestly, I think you choose units. You choose units so that way when they've pulled a champion potentially. Oh, and they do it. So now you know when they pull a specific card. That's part of the goal, like the value of entrapment is when they've pulled a specific card, especially in a deck without any other puff caps. Because they pull a card, 3 puff caps go off, you're like, oh yeah, that's the Sun Guardian. Like they have a Sun Guardian in hand now.
Yep, and that's definitely a underutilized part of entrapment. But hand range and understanding isn't too important if you're a good player. You should just know what they have in hand anyway, right? Full ahead. But talking about this hand right now, it's okay. Like we do have our engines from EU farmers in the way to win. And now it's basically when we've checked those boxes, what we have to do is we have to say, hey, now I have to level up my Israel, I have to level up my Seraphine, and now I need to find Disintegrate and another ping so I can just be ready for this what is it called? For the single combat.
Right. Ooh, yeah, I like this. I like this thermal play. Just because like I said last time, like you have a safe opportunity to play a large cost spell because the enemy is tapped out, and like they've tapped out again with this Leona, and they have the Pal Cascade in hand, and there's that opportunity, but the EU farmers have spent 7 mana to kill this Leona, so even the Pal Cascade will not save it. Definitely, I like that play.
I think it is, yeah, definitely the best time you're actually going to get the Leona off the board, and it is one of the threats that like is scary. But
they pull another one immediately. Krusty just had another one, top decking back-to-back Aesol Leona.
And that's also like good for Krusty Geezers because if they can keep putting pressure towards their Aesol turn, it's quite good, right? Because if we're getting rid of all these potential ways to kill Aesol on our Leona, that gives you the way to kind of have a leveled up ASOL to kind of snowball the game. But saying that, it also potentially makes it very, very awkward because you're leveling up the game plan of what EU farmers want, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's sort of like a tough thing to deal with, I think, just because like, you have to hit your requirement as Leona, but I mean, doing anything is going to provide opportunity for EU farmers to hit their level up because targeting spells for Ezreal, playing different spells for Seraphine, both very like simple things to do, and there's not really any way to get around that because just having units on the board allow for that to happen. As we do a bit of waiting. Yeah, it makes sense. Pretty standard attack. I don't think there's anything to really do differently. There's barrier, challenger. The Spiderling's obviously going to block one of them.
Yep, we're just trying to put a bit of pressure in. Like getting that stun's quite good. Just chipping down damage because it's going to get closer. And Aftershock comes out on the side of EU farmers here. Now, just going to get this flock out as well. This should kill it. Basically, EU farmers has been playing around Pale all the way through here and just making sure it's going 1 over in damage, which is a good thing. You don't waste anything else here. You have the Blade's Edge again, like we were saying, for this ASL when it comes down to proc the spell shot and potentially even damage it with the Seraphine. So I like this a lot. It's just slowing down the game across the geezers, and their threat density is getting, I know how you see the hand, it's getting pretty low.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we just saw the Loren Duelist come out, giving Challenger to the ASOL. This is, definitely a bad place to be, I think, if you're EU farmers, because, the longer the game goes on, the closer you are to that ASOL coming out. So you want to, get your machine gun loaded, so to speak, and get Ezreal out there, get Seraphine out there, so you can start really putting the hurt onto the Nexus. And that unfortunately just won't happen because it has the Cosmic Rays in Crusty Geezer's hand, which will obliterate both the Ezreal and the Seraphine on drop.
Right. That is something, really scary. But I know something that isn't scary for them anymore, and that's during Triple Israel. I know as a fellow Israel enjoyer, Triple Israel is getting those situations where you have to face something like Cosmic Rays. Also, Song Spinner can actually pull stuff out like Battle Bonds, which could be a potential way to buff it up, and then you can actually get Battles Bonds as well from the fan club president. So there is ways to play around it, but if you don't really forcefully understand that's what you have to do, then you might miss a scenario like that. But a scenario we shouldn't miss is, where did these units come from, Andy? This is a lot of damage is coming out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean the Sunforger had been in hand, the Sunhawk was drawn, but I don't know where the soldier came from. I don't remember seeing that in the hand. And yeah, this is going to be a pretty big attack. Using the Sunhawk first, that's the daybreak proc they wanted so that they block or stun one of the blockers, and that allows them to get this huge attack off. Now we see the Ezreal come out. Is Crusty Geezers going to show some discipline and wait for the Seraphine to show as well? And I think that they should. There's no reason to use the Cosmic Rays just yet. You have 18 health. You're not worried about anything, really.
Right. I mean, you've been waiting for this media shallow, but you also actually just have the single combat to deal with the Seraphine. It is scary, though, because that does lose the potential block hands, especially if the Seraphine is leveled. And yeah, I like this pass, being patient, like you're saying, and just waiting till you can get as much value as possible.
Yeah, it should be fun. Yeah, there's the Seraphine. And she's leveled up, so this should be interesting to see, honestly. Now the sad thing is that Ezreal is not also leveled up. So
And here it is, the Rays of Cosmic obliterating all these enemies of Seraphine and Israel. Now, Seraphine trying to get as much value as possible here. I assume we're getting Time Trick, the best thing out, and yep, we're starting with a draw. Getting another Seraphine here
No
allows you to
way.
refill next turn, especially on your attack token. All we really need now is maybe a bar. We also need some damage and maybe a bit of a song spinner in this mix as
Oh,
well. And
no
we get the
way.
bar.
No way.
Okay, this is a game now, ladies and gentlemen. Look at this. We've got a Seraphine. We have the Ezreal for next turn. We just need maybe
So
a
no,
Disintegrate, and I think we can actually run with this game.
now I think the move is to not use, because the EU farmers was hovering a Mystic Shot earlier. I think you save the Mystic Shot because there is still we know this. There is still a Meteor Shower in hand for Crusty Geezers. So you want to make sure you have all your Ezreals available for when they do finally level up. Or all of the ones that you have left available.
Wow,
And
and
the
talking
Rummage.
about refill, we get a rummage out of nowhere. This is +4 with the Seraphine.
Oh, and a Static
There is a
Shock.
chance.
That's huge. That's such a big part. An easy way to level up the Seraph or the Ezreal because it targets 2 units.
Right, but the top deck Sunburst comes out, removes the Seraphine here.
This is so
Having no
sad.
Ezreal means you can't pump out damage. So now we're just trying to get as much value as possible and trying to stabilize. There is still a chance from EU farmers. If we can stabilize and
Now,
generate units, there is a chance.
I think it's important. I think for EU farmers to monitor when the Ezreal hits the level up, which is off of this. Okay, because I don't.
Draw though.
Hmm?
They no rummage off this Seraphine dying. I mean, you just want +4 here. No, is that not crazy?
You do, but you also want. I'm surprised. I'm actually surprised they didn't opt for the what's the word I'm trying to the Static Shock. I'm surprised they didn't go for the Static Shock just because you could like double Static Shock and then level up and then still have uh the Unspeakable Horror and the Culling Strike to use as Ezreal procs, because the Static Shiv, while it targets 2 units, it only procs 1 Ezreal effect.
It still targets twice, so you get 2 Israel stacks on it.
Well, Ezreal's leveled up now, so
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
right. It's leveled up now. So okay, I'm trying to think. This is still actually fine on EU farmers, I think. Just on the basis of having this 4-drop deck that came out of
no.
Bar, and we also
Lighted-
have a silence here.
The Moonlight Affliction and an Invoke. How does it happen? How do they do it? How do they do it? Who are they paying? Who's got their RNG?
This is something that actually have getting that Invoker is very important now. All you need is this Disintegrate, and you can deal with this ASO for next turn. This was looking kind of dicey. We were trying to find a lethal out, but now this is a stabilization type of game plan now. And we drew that drainage as well from the bar. This allows us to just get rid of this 2-2 and 2-1 and go back up to 9 without being scared of much here.
Yeah. This is and then the Diego's Despair card.
Not Despair. It is it is the Drain card, but from the same type of expansion. Coming out, will be healing you up from 9, like we were saying, but the Pale gets some justice, and it allows Crusty Geezers not to get too behind while following up onto this ASOL turn.
They've pulled the Ravoon, but that doesn't really matter because you're at the stage where you just want to play the ASOL.
Right, we'll see if it happens here.
Okay, now here I think you mentioned going +4 with the Rummage. I think the cards that were in hand were too important to discard, but I think now you might want to hit the Ezreal, hit the Rummage onto the Static Shock to look for new cards.
Right. We just go for the Ravoon here. Interesting. I don't hate this. I think what they're trying to do is put as much pressure as possible and find a tempo lethal here. This Meteor Shower allows something to kind of get through, especially if they play the House Spider here. But I, I'm not sure. Like we could meteor shower and single say they have nothing, and we still don't have lethal, right? So this is getting very close.
Oh. Equinox big to silence the Ravoon. The Destroyer though also big to push damage, and the Scourge as well. All of these cards could be very very big for EU farmers right now, and they've opted for the silence, the Equinox. This is gonna be
Right.
interesting. Now, it's definitely a not the best idea, but the Scourge honestly. No, it wouldn't have mattered. I forgot that it's because he's attack, so EU farmers has to go for a big block here because they can't eat this damage. So,
Yeah, they have to block probably everything down.
mhm,
Going into the last 10 minutes of this game now, with the timer ticking down as fast as possible,
mhm,
keeping some value here, trying to not just, get the value with the free six to trade into the 2-2, letting it get past, which is okay. I think what they're trying to do is understand that if we have to win here, it is through Israel, and we have to be prepared to deal with any potential single combat, right? So they don't want to be wasting that damage. And here comes the Israel, but this is falling up to a few things where you can't get much value or a lethal out from it,
mhm,
because here comes a meteor shower, and that goes the second Israel for this game.
mhm. So that's two Ezreals down. That does mean a lot of clear is taken off the board, but it still doesn't matter because Krusty Geezers has concerted strike and single combat. So this is
And
gonna
now,
be rough.
it does give them some room though, because they did opt for the meteor shower. Get you to push this 2 damage now, and you have another one with the Blade's Edge, holding it back in case you get the Disintegrate. This is okay. In hand, you have 2 for 6 right now. It's not lethal. Uh,
Mhm.
you, it's rough. I'm looking at this game, and I just know Krusty Geezers has the way to kind of respond, and it like you need something, a
Oh.
miracle here, and drum solo might be it. You can actually play 2 and get a multiple of removal spells. The high note here,
Ooh.
but that not being proc next turn doesn't give you really much room to do anything. EU Farm is just trying to push as much damage as possible, even though they've used all 3 Ezreals now. This will be the last Israel. They go down to 8 here, or 7 now actually, and this is looking rough. They've only got 1 unit in play, and this considered will be the case, and it really comes down to the drum solo if they don't play anything else here.
Now, why would they go for the concerted strike and not the wish? They could have, or the guiding touch. Excuse me. Why wouldn't they just guiding touch
I'm
the
confused.
Ravon, and because it should have lived if it was guiding touched, right? It would have lived with one.
Um, I think so, maybe, but nonetheless, let's figure out the pros and cons of this game right now, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And that is Crafty Geezers is in the favorable position still, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
pumping out units, and EU farmers have to keep going 2 for 1, and they need something special here.
Oh.
The Grasp of the Undying allows you to survive, but what is your win con now? You have to find your third Seraphine for any potential way to get back in this game, and they still have ASOL in the hand, just chilling here.
Oh, they went for the no for the free attack. Wait, they actually went for the free attack.
Right? And now they actually just have to commit both of
No,
these
no,
here.
use the flock. Use the flock. The flock. The flock. You need to save Mystic Shot for Nexus damage. Use the flock. The flock can't target the Nexus.
Mystic isn't horrible. I mean, you might need it as a macro play
Nope, the
for
guiding
the face.
touch. The guiding touch just comes out.
Yeah, exactly. And this
You
is
could have played
going to
Ravenous and
be a
done nothing,
punish.
but now you're gonna get guiding touch, and then you have to play Ravenous now. You could have done Ravenous and done nothing, and save the Mystic Shot for Nexus damage, which you need.
Yep, and that's exactly what's going to happen. We have to waste the Mystic here, no reason at all, and get the flock out instead. Getting dealt free damage could have maybe even been better, and just do the Mystic on the free to and be up to 6. But it's just dwindling down the resources, and you need specific cards here, and we get the bar. Does this allow us to actually stabilize if we get 2 good spells here? Also with a fan club president, this might give you the opportunity to actually get back in the game still.
But the wasted mystic shot, is that just like a panic, or like what was them doing that? Like, you have Ravenous. You need to save spell damage for the next. Like, you have Ravenous.
I
And then
mean,
there's the lifesteal, but it loses lifesteal immediately.
it honestly could
Another
be, but we
flock.
get another flock anyway. We're just playing it now. I mean, we're getting daybreaks. They're not really doing much anyway. I would like to see the bar first or the fan club just so I know what I'm getting. Maybe
Yeah.
it's to try and push damage though. I don't know. I want to see the bar and fan club president because I think we can kind of get a way to win here. And passing the
Nope.
initiative for the ASOL to be played allows us to freely just play the bar and fan club and see what we're going to get from this RNG.
They think themselves cultured.
Wow. Okay, so they
And
went
what
from
do we
they
get?
went from the fire the reborn, the
Okay.
Phoenix card. So they have elusive. They made a concurrent timeline. Wait, this is good. This could be
This is
good
really
because
good. You get a free drop though, I think. Not a 5 drop. Any elusive maybe. Portapalooza, the event doesn't do anything. Maybe Portapalooza is what you want here. No elusive either. We're 2 to 3 now. Wait, hold on. If we can get Portal, see what we get. Maybe it's a +2 here. Sadly, it isn't.
no. So you can no you. I feel like you need to. Okay, yeah, do that maybe.
Problem is now you can't actually attack because it will level up the ASOL. Because the Fury will buff it up twice. Therefore, all you need to do is
Well,
just
no,
block
because
a
they're gonna
I guess trade down, right?
they're gonna kill one of these cards. They're gonna no. So you need to use. I feel like you should use the ray, the whatever the Victor hand thing. Use that on the 5/2. Use the parlay on the 5/2, and then attack, because it will
Right.
still further deny the ASOL level up. No, are you
I think they're
serious?
playing too much to survive, but I know what you mean. But the problem with the Death Ray is you're blocking one of your hand like your draws, right? And if we only put them on 4, you're going for very specific lines for a top deck, and you need like drum solo lines, and we've already had 2 this game.
I don't think there's any
So
left.
yeah, exactly. Like I can
Well,
see them
there's no drum
definitely
solos
finding
left.
mystic shots, but talking about what isn't a mystic shot, and that's a phoenix. A phoenix is a bird, and it also has elusive, and that elusive card will be the end of EU farmers. It allows crusty geezers to take it. Sadly, no disintegrate drawn, and that means crusty geezers are still in it. It is not a two-way sweep from them, and we're going to a game 3, and this is still undecided.
That was 2-0 for Krusty.
Oh, sorry, set free. My bad. Because we were talking about the scenario of Crusty Geezers. If they lose, we don't really need to play the set free. But now they haven't, and it is, coming neck to neck. And because of that, we'll be getting into the next set shortly, I presume.
No, it was definitely well played by Krusty Gamers. I think not letting that first loss get to them, not letting the pressure build, because like we've been saying, it is a lot of pressure. You need to win to win. You need to win to win. People die when they're killed. But no, like, you need to win because you can't let it fall to chance. And to a degree, it is still up to chance, because whoever wins the next game moves on, and the loser goes back into a tiebreaker. And it could be very important. So, now we have Krusty Gamers at 2-2, we have EU Farmers at 0-2, and we have the Big Flex Gamers at 2-0. So depending on how the next match goes, we will either see both Krusty Gamers and Big Flex go moving on as 2-2, but if either of them, I'm trying to think. So I think no, I think Krusty Gamers have dodged. I think they've
Well,
dodged a total tie unless EU Farmers pulls out the 2-0. I think they've dodged like the whole 3-way tie unless EU Farmers pull out the 2-0. So
Yeah,
that's what
EU Farmers has to pull out a 2-0 against BFG, I'm pretty sure, and then it's tied all the way through. No, if that happens.
well, yeah, that is tied all the way through. So then
Yeah.
then that we've kind of fallen into like potentially the worst case scenario. So if EU Farmers wins a 2-0, every team will be tied 1-1 with a 2-2 record. What?
Yep.
Sorry,
No,
Red is
so
messaging me that Krusty Gamers will move on if EU Farmers 2-0s.
that might be on the basis of just good games, good group score. I'm assuming. So yeah, okay. So it is
Oh,
basis. So we were talking about this before at the very start of the broadcast, and if a scenario happens where everyone goes 2-2, basically just saying everyone's gone 1-1, but the sets are also tied, it allows it to go to the group stage, and TKG actually has the best out of that. So yeah,
okay. All right. Well, we'll come back to this math in just a little bit. We're going to take a brief intermission while we get prepared for the third set of the day between EU Farmers and Big Flex Gamers. Stick right there. We'll be back in a few seconds or minutes, not seconds. All right, everyone, we're back for the final match of the day, between BFG and EU Farmers. So Big Flex Gamers, EU Farmers, very important match anymore. Very important match because we took a bit of an extended break because we were talking about what the specifics are for each team to come out on top. So Eniamore, if you want to go into it.
Yeah, okay. So basically, what's happening right now is we've got BFG and they are versing EU Farmers. We saw what happens to EU Farmers. They're down 2-0, 0-2. So what has to happen is they have to 2-0 this match,
Mhm.
not win it. 2-0 this match, and based on that, if that happens, it goes to a tie break set. So we've also got we've got a couple scenarios here. If BFG wins one single match, they are actually
Out of the
through
best
onto
three.
the playoffs. Just any of them.
They
However,
don't.
if EU Farmer is
Mhm.
it an,
Oh,
if EU
so they don't have to win. They don't have to win the set. They just have to win one match out of the
Yeah,
three.
one match. Yeah, that's exactly it. So they have to win only one match, and they're done. They're done into the playoffs. They're
Mhm.
home sailing, can relax, and that's it. But if they don't, and EU Farmers 2-0s, we go into a special set where they only play one extra game, and that will decide the actual winner to get into the playoffs.
Mhm. Yes, and if just those of you who might be confused, Krusty Gamers are through. They've won 2-2. So even in a worst case scenario for Krusty Gamers, with every team finishing 2-2, EU Farmers taking this match 2-0, that is. The Krusty Gamers will still go through based off of their group stage performance. They will have the best record of the three teams, which is why we will go to a tiebreaker tie between Big Flex and EU Farmers. Should EU Farmers win this 2-0? So we cannot be emphasized enough how important it is that EU Farmers does not drop a game. And Big Flex Gamers, they have 3 matches to win one match out of them, which could be easier said than done since we've only seen 2-0s so far. Any?
Yeah, it could be definitely a potential chance, but the sad thing is this Israel Seraphine might just struggle. We saw how it worked into the TKG into Kane, and it didn't really go well. Now, not only that, but you have Red Glen, which isn't a good matchup, something that will be most likely banned, and then you've got the Pantheon. There is a
Mhm.
bit of a save and grace here, don't get me wrong, and it's this Pantheon. Slightly okay into all of EU Farmers' decks, but the problem is the problem is due to the scenario, all that has to be done is they play Kane first if that gets banned. But no, now Red Glen gets open here, and the Kane actually gets banned with Annie being banned on the side of EU Farmers.
And honestly, I I don't think it matters for Big Flex. I think they just open with either deck. Honestly, I would probably prefer to open with the Pantheon Varus just because I feel like the Red Gwen can maybe not do so hot into decks with the clear, like if Aphelios Victor or the Seraphine Ezreal, but the Pantheon Varus should be very, very strong into both of them just because of the amount of time it takes to set up for, the Ezreal Seraphine or the Zoe Aphelios Victor. And in that time it takes to set up, the Pantheon Varus could potentially go way, way higher in their opportunity.
I I disagree. I think Red
Really?
Glen is insanely favored against both of these decks. Like it's not even close. Like you probably got like more of a 60% chance, 60% win rate into maybe the Israel Seraphine and the Aphelios deck, and then Pantheon. It's like slightly favored, slightly it's very, very close. I don't know. I think it like the sets are very weird where sometimes it's like a 55% and then sometimes it's quite lower. So I just think straight off the bat, Red Glen just
Hmm.
being played straight away is probably your best bet to try and get the win.
Yeah, and that's probably what the teams are discussing right now because we are waiting to get into that first match of the most important game that I think EU Farmers definitely is playing, but Big Flex also. as well, because if Big Flex can take this first match, like it is over. There's no chance for EU Farmers to come back with the way that the tiebreaker is set up, which is going to be probably very evident, I think, for EU Farmers going into this. They're probably going to take as much time as possible with every turn. So we're going to see a pretty good hand, I think, from EU Farmers, actually, with the Blade's Edge, the Mystic Shot, and the Fan Club President. And then, wow, Big Flex Gamers also getting a pretty good hand with the Saga Seeker into the Lodestone, into the Wandering Shepherd. So definitely possible to see a bit of power coming out early from those decks.
For sure, the Power Cascade is actually insane because it allows you to play Saga Seeker now on 2 and then just not getting Blade's Edge. But I say that, and EU Farmers just doesn't want the Blade's Edge anyway. Okay, make me look like a fool. But I mean,
Seraphine.
yeah, they toss back a lot of stuff. I think basically maybe what they're trying to do is look for all the removal they can because they understand that they have to deal with a Saga Seeker and then they need to deal with other things like Pantheon late. So it makes sense.
Yeah, and Big Flex Gamers going exactly for that opportunity that you said. Waiting turn 1, Saga Seeker turn 2, activate the Nightfall for the Pal Cascade in the same turn, which definitely a smart play, and it's going to take advantage of the fact that there are no available blockers from EU Farmers. And maybe we'll see a Mystic Shot. Yeah, the Mystic Shot coming out here just to try and clear that card away. But this is what I think Anymore was talking about. Waiting for that Pal Cascade, you're going to get the 1/1 and the draw and activate the Fate, which is going to bring that to a 3/3. Mystic Shot no longer kills, and gonna get a pretty decent attack, honestly. And the draw is the Unforgiving Cold, so that's really nice to have this early. Just in case something big comes out, something tries to take care of it.
Yeah, I mean, like Unforgiving Cold isn't the best against Seraphine. A main reason why it actually gets cut in like Kane Veinless is because like you ideally want to be versing Seraphine and it doesn't gain much value because you don't have actually much, board removal type applications there, and that might not be the case at all. It might be a game of full removal from spell based activities, and it could be the case in a couple turns. I mean, you can definitely just get the Scorch out if we play something like the Shepherd onto the Saga Seeker.
Yeah, and I think what you brought up is a good point, and I think that's what you farmers are doing is they're measuring what the value from this clear is going to be. Because I think they have the Disintegrate, they have the Scorched Earth. Is it going to be like a like are they waiting for the Pantheon to come out? Because having Disintegrate, having Scorched Earth is going to be very, very important for clearing a Pantheon once it gets pretty big. But we're already to the point where this Saga Seeker is also like pretty huge. So it's 5/3 currently. What would be best for them to have a Ravenous Flock to clear that out? But there's just so many cards that become such a big problem, and EU Farmers only has so much big clear. They have a lot of poke, but not too many cards that will take care of a large unit.
I think Scorch might be the best thing to play this turn. It's like you're not really doing much. You also want to kind of just be using your mana and get your engines ticking, which is Seraphine and Ezreal. It just makes the most sense, right? But they disagree. They're like, you don't know what you're talking about, so they time trick anyway instead, and not really much to do though. I mean, it gives you the availability to Scorch Earth, but I think mana efficiency would have been nicer to just Scorch last turn.
Yeah, that's a good thing to go or point out, but still we're at we're at turn 4 and still no blockers from EU Farmers. EU Farmers likely gonna go for the Arachnoid Sentry this turn if there is no open attack, but nah, here's the open attack, and honestly, it does make sense.
Here comes the Scorch now. It's like, okay, so doing the Scorch now, I really dislike, because if they decide to expanse here, now you're just wasting another potential removal where that wouldn't have been the case last turn. So I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of doing it now, but it pays off for them. They're still holding
Mhm.
up 3 mana. They still have stuff like a Peacemaker in case, and they're just hoping that Big Flex gamers aren't going to be picking up any of their potential procs. But saying that, they just target something, allowing this Momentous to get the potential proc here for Pantheon for the late game.
Mm-hmm. Now, I I do want to bring up that the Scorched Earth that EU farmers just used was their only Scorched Earth. So there is no more opportunity to kill just any damaged unit. So if one of these Pantheons does get big enough, it's going to be very, very difficult to kill, especially if it finds a spell shield with just a disintegrate. It's going to be pretty difficult, I think,
Right.
find enough damage to take care of this. As we see the 3/3 Wandering Shepherd out with the Lodestone and the Pantheon on drop. So here is a big opportunity, I think, for the Seraphine drop.
Maybe I still think it's kind of too early in the game, but they do it anyway. The this Pantheon now is really nice because they can actually just go, hey, I'm gonna play either Lodestone or the Real, and that's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that Lodestone last turn as well, even though you weren't getting an additional proc. It's just healing it out of stuff like Flock is very important, and buffing Pantheon out of ranges is even more important. And we don't actually have a fast way to kind of proc Pantheon besides this Furious Wielder right now.
Yeah, and what I think is the play for EU farmers is to hit the Static Shock onto the Pantheon and then disintegrate the Pantheon, or yeah, okay, or this works as well.
This works.
The disintegrate into Mystic Shot, because I don't think you can allow the Pantheon to try and hit. And now this is where it becomes very important, because there's 2 Furious Wielders in hand for Big Flex Sabers. If you play one on the Pantheon, that's level up. It's turn 6, but there was no target turn 1, so this is the level up for Pantheon. Now, should Pantheon find a spell shield? Very bad news. Very bad news for.
It is. It isn't, because we have the static here, and actually playing the static after is very smart, because if they roll tough and spell shield, you actually can't really get the disintegrate to pop at all. So very good understanding from EU farmers, and they're gonna actually get rewarded here. Take off the spell shield. The Furious Wielder still happens, but getting the Pantheon off right now gives you a tiny bit of leeway. And I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, Andy, but I don't want to tell EU farmers that there is another Pantheon in hand and they need
Yeah.
some more removal.
I was about to bring up, like, it's good for farmers, but at the end there's a Pantheon and Varus in hand, and they are both leveled up. So essentially EU farmers is on a 2-turn timer. They have their next attacking turn to do something, and then they get killed. I don't think there's anything to do past that.
Yeah, the hype was more about them just not dying that turn, pretty much, and that's like what's gonna happen. And now what EU farmers has to do is just keep removing, right? They need to make these pressure plays from big flex gamers just not become a problem. And it's tough. This is the problem with Israel Seraphine and why it loses to decks with high pressure density. You just can't keep up, and they
And
might have a sign of relief, going, "Hey, I killed the Varus," but this Pantheon is going to be an absolute
yeah.
bear.
Yeah, no, and honestly, if Big Flex loses the Varus, like, they're at the point where it doesn't even matter because of this other Pantheon. Like, if the Varus dies, like, sure, okay, unfortunate. You just put the Darkened Bow onto Pantheon, and then that just starts stacking up on the Pantheon along with the Fated proc, which is a huge source of damage. And
Right.
like we've been saying, like, there's no blockers from EU farmers. They have the Arachnoid Sentry. But yeah, here we see the Pantheon with the quick attack, overwhelm, challenger, tough fury, um, regen. So definitely a tough spot to be in, and I think EU farmers is sort of maybe not realizing this now, but they're very short on options.
They are short on options, so there is a bit of a chance, Song Spinner can definitely just stabilize randomly, or it can just absolutely whip. So the Song Spinner will potentially help them to be more, okay into the defensive turn, especially because no spell shield on the Pantheon. But we know that it is looking dire. It's looking absolutely rough for EU farmers. And this is like you were saying, they were just waiting for this darken weapon to not be played this turn. They tap under and allows them to just kind of flock here and be mana efficient.
And like the Song Spinner is good. I think the Song Spinner is a nice card, but like I mentioned last game, like you need a safe time to use it because if it does not work well, if it doesn't give you what you want or need, like if you use Song Spinner now and you don't pull Steel Tempest, you don't pull like something else to like try and stun this Pantheon, like you're about to take 8. That's 11 damage right there just from an open attack before you even proc a Fated proc or anything else for that matter. So like the 3 with the Lodestone makes the Pantheon 8/6, and then if you guiding touch the full health Pantheon just for fun for the memes, that'll push it to like 9, so you'll have 12 damage. Like there's definitely not a lot to be done, and I think it has to start with the aftershock. Like I think you
Right,
if
but
if
it
if there
is
is no
our
open
attack
attack,
gen.
you
Yeah.
okay. Well, there we go. That's also game. That's also Discord.
It's not game yet because we do have the stun spider. So you are actually fine here. There is no, Fisher Whack on the Harati. Doesn't mean they can kill with overwhelms here, and it does get punished here. EU farmers literally holding on to their life has to trade down this spider into one of the Haratis or Shepherds. Better to do it in the Harati, gives you options for Flock if you top deck it. They understand that, but they go down to 4 health here. And like the name of the game, it's just an absolute pressure onslaught from the opponents, and you're really just hoping to find an Ezreal and a Seraphine and hope they have no Furious Wielder in hand. Wow, and I don't like this Wily poking sick in the face. Like, hello, like be a bit more
So
optimal, maybe.
there was a card that was available. I don't think it was called. I don't think it was Brill Steel. That's just a normal prospect. There was a card from Freljord that deals 1 to every unit and destroys the unit's equipment, which could have popped the
All
spell
right.
on Harazi, which would then open it up to a Purify, which they chose, and I think was the right thing to do, or like some other damage source.
I
But
think it
instead, they opted for
might
the
be an
Valor and the Pokestick.
right. I think it might be an and or. I'm not sure because that card doesn't see play at all. But yeah, if you pokey stick just pokey stick the spell shield. We're limited on units. There's no reason to pokey stick the face. Like hello, like what if you get a flock here? You can just not waste the card. I don't know. Like there's no point to just poking the face. Um, I- I'll try not mold after that because this game state's kind of scary. We're getting the spell shield on. Is there any way that this might not be the case? Like, we're pushing lethal damage through both ways. We don't have the Disintegrate in hand, and yeah, this will just be game. Big Flex Gamers just takes it like it's nothing, playing it slow as possible, and that means BFG will be going through to the playoffs. But
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
I
sorry.
think it's sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was gonna say I think it kind of goes into what I said before they got into the first match, which is like they both take time to set up, but the Pantheon Varus deck is way stronger once it's set up. Like immediate win conditions, immediate power. It's not sort of like, oh, I need to play my Seraphine, I need to play my Ezreal, and then I need to have 18 mana to play 9 spells to blow up the enemy nexus through abilities. Like, nah, the Pantheon levels up, it pulls Quick Attack, it pulls Challenger, it pulls Spell Shield. Like, it's now an impossible unit to kill, or a very expensive unit to kill. And it has Overwhelm. Overwhelm was one of the most direct ways to win the game. It pushes damage to the Nexus no matter what happens. But definitely very, very well played from the big flex gamers, just because they were able to keep it calm and play it slow and win the game, not worried about whatever clear was thrown at it, because they knew, like, as long as they keep up board presence, they keep up pressure, that will go to them eventually. And now we're into the second game. Unfortunately, there is nothing to be done for EU farmers. Big flex gamers have secured their spot, but they are gonna play it out. Good sports. Love to see the attitude and the sportsmanship on their side, not just rage quitting.
It's
Out of
about
this
honor,
game.
right? And not only that, but when you get streamed, you're here to make moments. And I
Yeah.
honestly think, like, if you want to be, a person, a legend, it's all about making moments. And
Yeah, and you might not move on, but you can still go out on a win, even though it's not
exactly.
not
And
for
you never know, like maybe they do something so crazy that we've never thought about and going like, hey, EU farmers kind of good. But after that pokey stick to the face, I don't know. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe.
Yeah, a couple interesting decisions, but we are on to this next game where we've seen the Katarina Gwen coming out for Big Flex Gamers, and then the running back of the Seraphine Ezreal from EU Farmers. And this deck looks where this hand looks, I don't want to say a little better, but you know, being able to pull those cards, those units, the fan club president to have units on the board, which was something that was desperately lacking last game, was units on board.
For sure, and that's what they've got. No house spider, but it's not too bad. And we just pass here. Really interesting. Basically, giving them up that 6 mana, saying, "Hey, if you're not playing any of that 6 mana, I'm happy." And I actually really like it. It's kind of weird, but you're not in a rush. You kind of want high power spike players, and if you can get them not to target your units, you're pretty happy there, I think.
But Big Flex opted not to attack there, even though they had no blockers.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I get it's interesting, but I think they honestly just wanted to remove the potential chance of saying, "Hey, they've got more mana than me. I'm gonna say if you want to give up that mana, I'm happy with it."
Mm-hmm.
And one thing they are giving up is this Gwen, but not too much of a problem. This deck actually wants your stuff like Gwen to die because you have just Dancer and Harrowing, and you'll be doing that later in the game and going like, "Hey, I just want."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think it's a good idea, and I know it's not, but I always look at the Gwen Katarina deck and I'm like, wow, this is just so much cheese. You have the Ruined Reckoner, you have the 5 cost Minotaur card that gives you something on death, which, like, it's all just about making free attacks, and then, like, if you are able to get the recycling going on the Katarina, then, like, it's a very interesting deck to play against. But they are in a pretty good position, like we've been mentioning. EU farmers have yet to put a unit down on the board, but Big Flex gamers have also yet to attack.
Right? But saying that as well, I mean, like, they've kind of opted for being patient, and it's definitely paying off. This attack is kind of scary. Our double static doesn't do much. We could definitely fan club here and hope to get another spell to kind of trade off maybe 2 of these units. But the thing is, they're still pushing in free damage. Where
The double
maybe if they gave
the double static will kill the hollowed and kill the rear guard, while also doing 1 damage to the ruined reckoner, and give you 4 procs towards that Ezreal level up. And then you only take 5 damage as opposed to 10, which honestly could be a pretty tempting offer, but instead they opt for the fan club president.
right,
I think the double static would have been the move.
Yeah, potentially.
Because now they're gonna do.
It's more consistent, right? You have more
Mhm.
consistent plays, and then you know you can kill the Reckoner later. The problem is they actually deal 8 damage. No, they deal more than that. They'll actually deal 5, and then they'll deal 6. So they'll deal 11 damage based on that play because they have the 0 mana spell, right? So you kind of have to opt for the fan club, but at the same time, you're running in the same type of pickle here, and they're going to be dealing 8, slightly less damage, but it's still scary on the side of EU farmers.
Yeah, and here even after all of that is still 9 damage as opposed to like you know potentially clearing 2 units and only taking 8.
And I'm just thinking about that play on turn 2 of the pass as well, or turn
Mhm.
3, and I think like that's so underutilized that extra damage there was actually a lot more if they did that play right. If
Mhm.
they instead attacked and then EU farmers did a static shot maybe ages ago and you use that mana on turn 3, you wouldn't have got as much damage as you did on that turn. So I really actually like it. Just going all the way back and seeing how it was rewarded in turn 5, that you can do stuff like that to gain even higher power spike turns.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I think this is a good thing to bring up. Now we do see the Katarina in hand for Big Flex gamers, and no mana on the side of EU farmers. So this could be a good opportunity to try and bust out the Katarina and go for an open attack next turn. No, but instead we're gonna get the Fallen Reckoner, and we're gonna give can't block to that 3/3, and then next turn is gonna be a big attack.
Actually just making the bar helpless. Bars are supposed to be comforting, especially if you're a tavern keeper, but now he doesn't feel like he has a job, and he's the kind of maybe suicide, but you're not going to suicide because it just can't block, so just going to get a free damage in here, and this is setting up a really good turn for big flex gamers.
Mm.
You're pushing a lot of damage, this double static's going to come out, but we're still, dealing at least 5 here, and you have a harrowing up for the turns later on as well.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think the Katarina play is good, but this is going to require you to. Do you double static and try and kill the cat,
I
or
think
how do you?
the play is definitely the 2-free in their hand right now, the Chronomancer that was
Mhm.
generated, and then you have double static lines here. And then maybe you can get a Blade's Edge from that Chronomancer predict. So you can actually deal with majority of their board, and then also trade into the 4-free Reckoner while not killing it. Probably your best play, I think. But that's dependent on finding a Blade's Edge here, and that is not the case. But you do get a Ravenous Fox, so you have some leeway if you get an action here.
Mhm.
And
And
there it is.
you do get an action now. Hmm.
Still bad. This is still a 2-for-1. So we're probably going to be double staticking. We'll be doing it on twice on the Katarina, I assume. Once on the free one, and then we're going to be doing it probably on the free two. Otherwise, we just do twice and twice. Like twice on the free two Katarina and maybe the rear guard, which is honestly better. You don't even want to be killing this Reckoner either.
Mm. Yeah, you don't want to be killing the Reckoner, but you also like
You
sort of
kind of
have
want
to.
to. Yeah, right. You kind of do have to because overwhelm is a scary keyword. But I don't know about killing it now. Kind of a lack of judgment, right? You just gave them one extra attack. It matters in some circumstances. Like we do have the Fox, so if they do put it on the overwhelm, it doesn't matter. But you giving them a towel allows you to do something like putting on the rear guard, which is your worst unit to kind of kill here, and that does make it a lot more awkward. You want that Mystic to go on the Katarina instead, but you can't do that, and you have to maybe trade the Israel down into that 5-2.
Yeah. Now it's such a difficult choice to make because you do live by not blocking. You do live not blocking anything. And that's honestly probably the best choice to try and turn this around. Keep the Ezreal alive, keep the Mystic Shot generation available, because while there's a lot of units being, summoned, played, the Mystic Shot takes care of a lot of them. A good number of them. So you have 3 health. Now this is not the best place to be, not the worst place to be. Now the
Yeah,
good
they're
thing
actually they're actually one-off lethal as well, Andy, because you can actually Harrowing here and find the Katarina and actually do it. But they are opting to just kill Israel. It's smart, right? Because this is the only way that EU farmers can win here.
yeah, it's the only way back in, because it is the only way. Like, it's their best shot of generating clear, because the Ezreal just lives and hits the Nexus, generates a Mystic Shot. But instead we're gonna see, oh, nothing happened yet. We're gonna wait for the attack to be committed, I assume.
Right, that's smart because if they have another Israel, there is some play around. So yeah, I really do like it. It makes a lot of sense, but now it gives us the availability to flock here.
See, you might as well attack with the 3/3 though, because it cannot block. There's nothing for it to do besides attack now. Oh.
Exactly. I think you attack with majority of things. Like the way you're winning here is trying to find lethal, right? So you need to put as much damage
Quick
as
damage,
possible, and just pop off of Israel and hope they don't have flock. But it was telegraphed that they might have that as a possibility, and here it comes out. This flock that was in hand, and Israel, a happy lad is not going to be happy because he will be off the board.
Mm-hmm. No, this is a rough place to be for EU farmers, because that Ezreal was sort of the only way for them to make a comeback here, because of the clear that it provides through Mystic Shots. And now we're gonna see the returned Reckoner, not this turn, I believe. It's ephemeral, but it's going to come out
We
next.
we can see it this turn. If you're going for a harrowing line, but I think what's happening is they're just waiting for their board to dwindle, right? At least
Mm-hmm.
if one more unit disappears, you use glimpse of the other one, and then you're harrowing it. I'm pretty sure you win.
Mm-hmm.
So there is like lines, but maybe it's more optimal to just play it a tiny bit slow.
Mm-hmm. Okay, instead we do see the returned Reckoner, which is interesting since it is ephemeral, but they might just be going for, making sure the open attack next turn works. Because, like two units that can't block, 2 units attacking, both have 3 damage, both can be lethal. And there is no clear. There is no clear for EU farmers right now. They only have the static shock, but instead they're
They
going to
have
glimpse.
Yeah, so they have Static Shot, they have the Scorch Earth, and the Disintegrate, and then they have the Stun Spider. So let's say they do Harrowing, right?
Mhm.
We have no units, but then we can deal with potentially 3, 4, and then we have 1, and then this High Note. But there's a Glen, I'm pretty sure. There's a Glen and a Katarina coming. So if they can't deal with that straight away, that is just lethal. I'm pretty sure, right? Because the Glen comes out, you get the Katarina here. The Katarina is +1 onto the thing. They have to disintegrate right now on the Katarina, but if you do that, you can't actually sentry. So therefore, you would have to sentry the Glen.
Well, there's nothing, because the next attack just wins. There's a full board of units, 5 units, all attacking. There's only 1 unit that can block. And there's not enough clear spells to end the game, or to kill units. Like, there's just Disintegrate and just Static Shock. So that's
Yeah,
one
there is
unit
no
you
way.
can kill. That's 1 unit you can kill, and there's 22 damage. 12 of it is Overwhelm.
Well, it's a lot closer actually, because we have the Disintegrate and we have the Static, but the thing is you had to play Static before on the free 2. So yeah, it's like You're just slightly off here, and this will mean BFG doesn't even need to get one game in here. They're just going to be winning the whole set quite close. EU Farmers just basically throughout the whole entire time of the day just struggling to do anything and stabilize with this Israel Seraphine deck and just going to be scorching their own bar. What a poetic way where this is the only real, lineup is a double bar lineup, and they're saying, "Hey, I don't want to play double bar ever again. Get me out of here. Let me scorch my own unit." And this will still be lethal on the side of Big Flex Gamers.
The real respect move would have been to like fervor your own Nexus or like Mystic Shot your own Nexus, but I can respect the bar keeping Scorched Earth.
Yep.
But instead we're gonna see something tried to come out, but nah,
Just the high note. Just give them a bit of a taste that we're in here. I'll give you a bit of taste, but that's definitely it. EU Farmers sadly can't even get a win. Big Flex Gamers showing why they're around and why they should be in playoffs, and that's it. We have our winners for the play-ins, and that is BFG and TKG, who won through tiebreakers in the last set.
Yeah, no, so congratulations to BFG, really coming out strong in both matches, like, taking out TKG and then also just, coming in no mercy for the EU Farmers, like just coming straight for the win, and I can respect that. It's not game time, it's play time. Like you're here to win. So, coming out, making sure that they get the correct matchups, the correct card, the correct matchups, the correct plays, and following the lines correctly. I don't think I saw too many misplays from the big flex gamers. They definitely played well. They played, from what I saw, pretty much the best they could play. Like they followed whatever would be the most viable, the most likely to directly influence their chances of winning the game. And that says a lot because we watched a lot of games, and we watched a couple of times where like the misplays honestly led to the loss. Like with one of the matches between Krusty Gamers and EU Farmers, like there was a time where like one choice kind of lost the game for one of them. So like really well played by big flex gamers.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of interesting lines. I'm gonna go back to that line where they just pass on
Ooh.
turn 3 in that Red Glen game.
Right.
I haven't actually ever seen that, and that goes from like an old strategy back in the day where you're like, oh, then wasting mana is good. Fresh Lobster was a big advocate for that, and seeing that being utilized again and it actually gaining value on turn 5 was very, very impactful. And I think
Mm-hmm.
this is why, you have people like Timmy, Nalitix, Ghost Driver, Hipster Waldo, and that team and doing insanely well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think it was exemplified here today. And play-ins are such a stressful time for players, so good for them for like maintaining their calm throughout all of it. But that is gonna be it for our coverage here today. Congratulations to Big Flex Gamers and Krusty for moving on to the playoff stage of the EMEA Aegis Esports Legends of Runeterra League. Anything else you want to add?
Probably not. I'm just excited that we're going to get into the playoffs, and I'm glad that you were here to witness who will get into the playoffs. Because I'm pretty sure it was exciting, and I know the teams in playoffs right now are kind of scary. So I'm very,
Mm-hmm.
very excited.
No, I'm glad I got to come over and cast a bit of the EMEA stuff, usually on the NA side, but that will be it for us all. Thank you again to Runeterra AR for sponsoring our deck lists and our deck coverage. That's been all for today for the play-in stage of the tournament. I'm Domcast, joined by NEMR. Thank you all for tuning in. We're out.
Peace.